Greetings. Shaded Take panel assembled for the first time in, I don't know, I think it's
years?
4 years now.
Force Awakens was the last time this happened.
Force Awakens was the last time this happened.
Were you even there for that? Yeah, you were there.
I was there for the original, and then you guys recorded.
Julian Rizzo was in there. Yeah, Rizzy was in there.
Yeah. In any case, we're back. Shade Take panel assembled here. Last time we saw you was Force Awakens, and we are now here to discuss the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy as a whole. Rise of Skywalker came out on, I think it was December 18th of 2019.
Yeah.
And we are now at the point where it's about time to start evaluating how this franchise fared as a whole. Was it successful? How do each of these films hold up in the grand scheme of things, or the grand Star Wars canon? So the way this is going to work is we're going to start by presenting our rankings of the films. We'll go around the table, and each one of us will talk about the order that we have ranked, and then after that, we'll move on to individual film discussions. Start with Force Awakens, then we'll be talking about Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and then at the end, we will have a trilogy reflection type thing. We'll talk about the trilogy as a whole and whether or not it's successful. But before we get any further, I am Black Shadow. I guess hosting, although he's hosting, but I have the outline in front of me. So
his idea, my house.
Pretty much.
There you go.
Yeah.
And this is
Sinister Jest here, kind of drunk.
Participant.
Something happens in 4 years.
Participant in the first video.
You know what I'm saying? Hi. Yeah. And that is
Wildman RT.
Wildman RT making his reappearance back from our
original
Force Awakens video. Yeah, back
in an unreleased flashlight video.
Really? Yeah, I bet so.
All right. Well, we will get started with the rankings. So.
Okay, so you won't be able to see this, but I actually wrote 7, 8, 9 is my ranking. So 7 being the better of the 3 trilogy, and 9 being the worst. So I'll defend that as we go on. So
just to be absolutely clear, he's saying Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker.
My humor has not changed. All right, and so what would your rating be?
So I have The Empire Strikes Back.
The original,
out of the trilogy first. Out of the sequels first.
Sequel trilogy. Don't bother with original trilogy or prequels.
All right. Well, if you want to put in, well, yeah, but I think it's a good idea though, just to see how you think it fares in relation to
like the whole series,
the grand thing. Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, I have not gone that far.
Let's do that. Let's do that at the end.
At the end?
I have not gone
Let's
that
do that.
far.
Let's do that at the end. So we start the overall.
See, my opinion is based on the trilogy because me and Black Shadow here, we like kind of marathoned it, like the first 2, and then we went back in theaters and saw the episode 9, Rise of Skywalker again. So I don't really have an opinion to kind of report at the.
On that note, if we're limiting it to the sequel trilogy, I will go Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi.
So 7, 8, 9 as well.
7, 9, 8.
7, 9, 8, but you just said Last Jedi first, though.
No, I didn't.
No, he said Rise of Skywalker and then Last Jedi. And
so
I'm kind of
inebriated right now.
I'm also 7, 9, 8.
7,
Rum
9,
and Coke
8.
will do that to you.
And then Sinister Jest is 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
Well, with that, we'll move into discussion of Force Awakens being the first of the trilogy. Which one of you would like to go first?
Go first.
Well, you go first because you're the one that's home in this. So overall, you're the one that should go first.
All right. Well, okay. So on that note, I've been a long-time defender of Force Awakens. After seeing it for the first time, I remember being somewhat paranoid that the film would deteriorate as I see it more and more and pick up on more flaws. But to my surprise, Force Awakens actually gets, in my experience, it has gotten better, or the quality has improved with each viewing. And so that is one of the main reasons why I hold it in the company of the original trilogy, and I consider it the best of the sequel trilogy. Biggest thing there's an overwhelming sense of nostalgia, I'd say, that accompanies Force Awakens that you can't really say for other ones, other than maybe Phantom Menace at the time. The fanboys, the hype train that accompanied that. But yeah, no, I remember
that was non-existent for us.
We were 2 years old, or I was 2 years old.
We were all too young to remember any of that.
Yeah, I was 1 year old.
So we were not part of that. This sequel trilogy is like not our generation, slightly younger, but like this is the one that we participated in. This is the one where I remember taking the day off school, going to the theater. I remember every detail of the movie theater. Yeah. So there's an overwhelming sense of nostalgia with Force Awakens. However, I do think that it functions as a film better than any of the other sequel trilogy. And actually, I think in terms of pacing, I consider this the greatest of all Star Wars films. The biggest advantage being the rhythm is well defined by an alternating series of action and rest periods. It starts with an incredible opening scene. They do a really good job of setting the tone with the First Order early and just emphasizing the upgrades that you're looking at after the Empire, and also just like establishing the First Order as a true villain. That was one of the biggest things that stuck with me, because during the original trilogy, I always thought Empire, there was always an argument to be made that it is a law enforcing agency, and there is some degree of good that comes from bringing military order to the galaxy, but the First Order gets rid of all that. They went straight for Nazi Germany with their betrayal. That's reinforced with General Hux. And they do a really good job of just making them as an institution a true villain in a way that I don't think the original trilogy was able to do. So on the pacing, that opening scene, then it will slow down for Rey's introduction, which I actually think is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. It's probably like a 3 or 4 minute period where there's no sound. They just introduce their new character, their new soundtrack, and it's like 4 minutes of just pure visual storytelling. You just follow Rey scavenging the Star Destroyer, sliding down Mima Outpost, selling things. You see where she's living. It's all excellent, really well done. It looks good. On-site shooting, that was another thing. On-site shooting off the charts with Force Awakens. So that was really well done. And then that pattern pretty much continues. It picks up again with the Millennium Falcon and then slows down. And this happens pretty much all the way through to the end. That's my biggest thumbs up with Force Awakens is pacing. As pacing like no other. Even Empire Strikes Back, you could say might drag at times. Maybe A New Hope, the Tatooine introduction is slightly dragged out. Force Awakens is probably the most easily digestible Star Wars film because the pacing is on point. And that's pretty much the biggest perk to it. Introduces the characters, I think, in a reasonable fashion. Visuals, excellent balance, practical effects, CGIs. Soundtrack, it's good. I mean, it's no original trilogy, but who can ever be?
Yeah.
And then, so with all those positives, I think biggest flaws, obviously, Starkiller base. The redundancy argument of introducing another super weapon with planet-killing capabilities. That was completely unnecessary. Captain Phasma being a weak link in the plot. Actually, the only time where I think the plot doesn't really work is when Phasma is pressured into lowering the shields.
No importance to the story whatsoever.
You would expect that someone in that position of power would be ready to die for the base.
Exactly.
All that takes is they grab her,
hold her up,
point a blaster at her head, and she lowers the shields.
And also, dude, we've seen that armor is actually blaster proof. So probably all that blaster would have done was probably knock her out at best.
Exactly.
At worst, kill her. But at best, knock her out. That's probably all they would have done.
Overall, I think most of the issues are isolated. They're small, they're contained. and it doesn't, or they are largely overshadowed by the larger fundamental filmmaking achievements that this film does. So, for that reason, Force Awakens, greatest of the sequel trilogy.
I can agree I agree with actually almost pretty much everything you actually said. Like with Rey's introduction, how it's all this visual, like there's little to no like exposition or explanation of what's going on. Like right. we see her like scrounging around in what's left of that Star Destroyer, going to Nima Outpost, selling the parts, getting what appears to be actually just food. Also trading for us of this credits.
Right.
And then going home go back to her home, which is fallen over AT-AT, where she's pretty much hauled out. And then rescuing BB-8s for the entirety of her introduction. And the entirety of it, the only dialogue you get is the junk seller. That's it.
Mm.
That's all you get from Rey's introduction.
Unkar plot.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
I don't think it's important.
It's in that ballpark.
Something like that. But yeah, with Rey's introduction, the opening sequence of like them actually making the.
I love that soundtrack too. Rey's theme. To me, it's one of the more memorable.
Oh yeah,
ones.
the music I was playing with first. Yeah, that's very good. I actually like that one. And like the introduction of like the First Order of like them acting more like actual villains rather than the Empire did, because the Empire it feels like it's actually more of a government because it actually was, but and then you have the First Order, which actually more is just like a band of mercenaries rather than an actual government. Like they're actually just doing this shit, but it's
a war faction.
It's a war faction, really. They're Mandalorian.
Like rebels themselves, if you would think so. Because they're rebelling against the leadership.
The New Republic. And they pull it off. And here's when the New Republic was destroyed. They're kind of the new governments of the galaxy. Even with the destruction of Starkiller base. And like, yeah, I agree with that. They established that they're the villains, and while the Empire kind of wasn't, because at that point the Empire wasn't fighting anybody. It was just law enforcement and this growth of the Empire during the point of the original trilogy. And yeah,
that actually reminds me, not to cut you off at all, but I forgot to say it. John Boyega's best performance is Force Awakens, I think.
I agree with that. I agree. Yeah, pretty much everybody's best acting was kind of like in Force Awakens,
except for Adam Driver. I think Adam Driver was really good in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
There was a lot of leading character development there that kind of led him to like more maturity.
Kylo Ren's acting could I noticed when I watched Force Awakens and Last Jedi last couple of days. Mm-hmm. His acting really drops in Last Jedi.
You think it drops?
I think it drops.
Gets worse. Okay.
I think it got worse.
Mm. So my overall opinion is that
I already got nothing else. You pretty much just said everything I wanted to say.
Okay.
So
even though I had nothing planned.
I don't have anything planned either. But my overall criticisms of the Force Awakens is the fact that like I will defend that. Yes, it was difficult introducing new characters into like the whole like Star Wars lore, and I'll give them credit that they didn't really have like anything to go off of other than say the prequels, but they kind of want to go away from that. And so they kind of introduced the new characters in a way I'd say that was like kind of decent enough for that, like what it was at the time. But I think that there could have been more work and they could have like done better, but they were still kind of like stuck in that mentality that they kind of want to draw from the original lore, from the original series, and kind of draw on that aspect.
Appeal to the original trilogy audience.
Yeah, and use the framework from there to kind of bring in their like new characters into the fray. And I'll give them that. Like they did decent for what they had at the time, but my huge criticism is that they could have done better if they weren't so like afraid of like upsetting the fans with like going from the original lore or from the original framework itself and going into like being more adventurous in the play. I feel that they could have done better. And yeah, I'll concur with a lot of this stuff, but like Force Awakens for me is the better of the whole sequel. I'll give him that for what they had, because Adam Driver was like, his acting, I think, was like pretty swell. Like, it was pretty decent for what it was, like introducing him to the plot line, having him kind of be, I will say, like a bitch Vader, like a bitch Anakin.
I think that was like one of the things people were saying about Kylo Ren. Like, he's not as threatening as Vader was.
Yeah,
like
it's
you see it. You see it.
Yeah, you see that he was aspiring to be like what he wanted to be, like his grandfather. He wanted to be a Vader bird. Yeah, he was like a Vader geek, and he wanted to be like aspired to be the next Vader.
That helmet.
And I feel like he did pretty good in his like acting, and I feel like Oscar, like Isaac, did as well. Like him, like I have to give him props. Like that was probably his best acting. Like if we further delve like into like saying Rise of Skywalker, I feel like his acting kind of like lowered specifically, and I think a lot of it was due to like I had to refer to like these like I believe like an article that was posted about him and kind of Disney clashing when at the end scene they wanted Oscar wanted his Poe character and Finn to have like kind of a romantic resolution at the end, which didn't happen.
Thank God.
As it posted. Yeah, thank God. But I feel like his acting kind of like dwindled at the end. His acting was so strong in like Force Awakens, and I have to give him credit for that.
For Poe.
Like, yeah. And I feel like as the story drudges on, also the learning curve, as we see, yes, when Rey is like captive at the time in the Star Destroyer.
In Starkiller base, yeah.
Yeah, and no, she wasn't in Starkiller base yet.
No, she was.
She was?
Yeah. She was, yeah.
Cool.
Everybody was on Starkiller.
Sorry, I was inebriated at the time. I still am at this point. But we see Rey at Starkiller base, and she's just like held captive. And all of a sudden, her like learning curve in the Force just like automatically happens, and she's able to command a stormtrooper into letting her go, releasing both her and relieving his weapon at the time.
Yeah, an ass pull of Force abilities.
See, at the time, we didn't know that there was like a connection between her and Rey as strongly as we do, as we see in Last Jedi. But I feel that the writers or the director at the time could have done so much better attempt at kind of addressing her learning curve, as I was putting, as her like abilities in the Force just kind of like automatically improving in the spot.
They were ass pulls.
Like honestly, yeah, you just see her being able to tap into like kind of meta like Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah, we see her using Force persuasion. You see her using Force persuasion. Like she's like, oh, I can do that, and this pulls it out of her ass and uses Force persuasion, and then out of nowhere overpowers Kylo in Force pull to get the lightsaber.
Exactly, and you all see in that one cutscene where Kylo is trying to interrogate her, and she kind of turns it against him. I feel that later on in the series we see that there's like a dichotomy in the Force, in which like Rey and Kylo have this strong connection, this pull in the Force, in which they are able to do so. And I believe that the directors and the writers should have written this more clearly. In the fact they kind of sway it.
There was no hints of it at all.
There were no hints of it at all, but it kind of
the piloting.
It kind of seemed like it was like kind of apparent that you would see that Kylo, as he was strong in the Force, that their pull in the Force, his training in the Force was obviously more superior than Rey's. That you see that she was able to match that due to their connection, as you would later be hinted on in the later series.
Just to be clear, that is an interpretation. That's your unique interpretation. You're saying the dyad. Actually, you should probably explain, because I had never actually heard that theory before about how they're learning off of one another through the dyad.
I've heard about that. Okay. But that's all I've got.
See, my theory, my hypothesis is that due to the fact that Kylo Ren was so advance in the Force and that learn and do their dyad together, that Rey would be able to the learning curve would be far superior, and that the fact that she'd be able to pull off feats otherwise that Padawans or any early learner would be able to do. So basically, due to the fact that they're dyad, so Kylo Ren is at this level, Rey would be able to produce that same ability and or match that strength. And so I feel that the writers and or directors at that time, J.J. Abrams, would be able to better demonstrate that. I'll get it, albeit that this is their first Star Wars movie, or their first going into the sequel, introducing new characters. I get that. Okay, that's a huge feat in its own. But I feel that they could have better addressed that one fact. And I feel that was part of the weakness in the whole plotting and the kind of directing of that part.
Yeah, for all of the things that happen with just the Force in general, a lot of it is stuff that we don't know about.
We don't know about. And you also see that kind of example when Rey and Kylo Ren are fighting. He's obviously more superior because he's had how many years under his belt using the Force and saber training, and you see Rey out of nowhere just able to best him, and due to the fact they're dyad, I feel that could have been better addressed. I could have been they could have introduced that topic back in Force Awakens, better address the fact they have a connection significantly. More so than in, say, Last Jedi, when they're when in scenes where they're more connected, so where they can see each other and touch each other and whatnot. And I feel that was one of the greatest weaknesses of the Force Awakens, and one of my major criticisms then. So to cut in, I guess. What we've seen Jedi using Force abilities in their diest of times. Okay, we see them at their last their give it all, or it eludes me at the time of the term, but at their last breath, at their last minute, they fight at their last little determination they have left. They full in and they use Force abilities at the end to best their opponents, and we see with Rey, she just up and at him. She's able to use that. Okay. Using the plot line at the first, Force Awakens, it's, poorly introduced. You don't see the fact that she's different than other Force users, and she's able to use that at best. I feel it would have been better introduced, that concept that, a dyad in the Force would be able to, use their connection, say someone's better, in the Force, their ability, and someone's able to match that due to a dyad. But there's no, any reference to that. And so you're left with watching Force Awakens in the beginning. You see you just introduce the fact that someone of no name, of no reputation in the Force, able to use the abilities of someone more advanced than her. And so that kind of leads to a problem for me, considering the fact that what we've seen and what we noticed in the past Star Wars movies, when someone is at their lowest and in their diest of hour, they're able to use their Force ability out of sheer will. And so for me, that is my biggest criticism, the learning curve. Yeah, in my ability, in my perspective.
I kind of have a rebuttal to that.
I also have a rebuttal. But
I got actually a pretty big rebuttal, which actually makes a lot more sense than the dyad, because the dyad was not introduced until Last Jedi.
I was gonna say before you get into the dyad, really quick, I want to point out most of those criticisms are derived from what's probably the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy, and that's that it did not have a clear vision from the beginning to the end. J.J. Abrams had no idea about this Force dyad business thing when he made Force Awakens. Rian was the one that introduced that.
Yeah, you don't see it all in Force Awakens.
And J.J. continued, he built on it in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually have a plan of doing that himself, so... yeah, the learning curve is sort of extrapolated from that to an extent. It's a flaw in their production decisions. But
switching directors is probably one of the biggest ones.
What's that?
Switching directors.
Just switching directors, yeah.
And my rebuttal to Rey's learning curve in the Force is that if we compare it to back in the prequels compared to the sequels, we see that in the prequel trilogy, like there's a shit ton, a lot more Jedi, like from expanded universe stuff. We learned that like there's around like over 10,000 Jedi at one point, like right before the start of the Clone Wars, and that's a lot of people compared to just only like 1 or 2 in Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a really big imbalance in the Force, and so we see a lot of the Jedi are not as compared to what we see in the original trilogy and the sequels. The Jedi in the sequels are actually appear to be a lot weaker than the actual Jedi we see in the original and sequels. And my rebuttal is that like since there are less on both sides, like in the sequels, we see only Rey, who is significant in the light side, Snoke for a bit, Kylo and the Knights of Ren for the dark side, and then Palpatine for how long he was KIA, because he kind of was. And that's a lot more balanced than 10,000 to 2, because it's like 1 to
10,000
8.
Jedi, 2 Sith.
Yeah, now it's like 1 to 8. So it's a lot more balance, and so since there's more balance, the ability to use the Force will be a lot more easier.
It's more lopsided.
Yeah, it's less lopsided. So like the balance on the Force is a lot easier. So someone who does have Force abilities will more likely have a better chance to actually learn how to use it faster, rather than someone who was in pre-Clone Wars. It was in the Clone Wars, trying to figure out how to use the Force and struggling how to do it. So I would say like Rey, she has an easier time using it because there are less people drawing from the Force. That's my rebuttal to that.
I never actually thought of that before, and it does make sense. It does make sense in the regard of, so if you look at the prequels, every lightsaber duel is a 2v1. Like the Sith in the prequels are on another level, or they seem to be on another level.
Yeah.
You have Maul, you have Dooku, you have Palpatine, and all of them wreck shop in their respective ways.
And even in the Clone Wars TV show, you see
it's
like
not my expertise, but
I'm the only one that's actually seen Clone Wars, and we see like the fight of most of the fights of Ventress. It's always a 2-on-1.
Right.
With Ahsoka Luminara, 2-on-1 with Ventress. Obi-Wan and Anakin, 2-on-1 with Ventress. Ahsoka and a bunch of clone troopers, a group on Ventress. And then we see fights of Dooku, still 2-on-1 with Obi-Wan and Anakin.
You always need more Jedi to match the power
and even then, we also see Sith on Sith with Maul and Savage against Palpatine, and we see Palpatine is kicking her asses. And also Dooku, Savage, and Ventress free for all, and Dooku is still kicking her asses, even with Ventress.
So your argument here.
Before you respond, I also have one rebuttal. Yeah, okay. So that's actually a really good point.
And also, I got another thing. Clones. A couple companies of clones versus a Jedi Master in Pron Krell. They actually beat him.
The clones did?
Yeah, the clones. Like, there's a full fight where a bunch of clones are fighting a Jedi Master who is using 2 double-bladed lightsabers because he's bigger and has 4 arms. They actually beat him. And still, he does kill a bunch of them, but they still beat him. And they actually have him restrained. They actually capture him alive. And then later kill him. So, you see the Jedi are actually a lot weaker to actually lose against clones, even being outmatched.
Actually, I'll go let you respond because it looks like you're going to pass out.
Wow. Okay.
So that's our rebuttal of the Force.
So basically, following your train of logic, you would say that the Jedi are generally weaker. The fact is
when there's more of them.
Yes. There's more of them because of the imbalance of the Force. But however, where does that dictate?
There's more of them, so they're more individually weak.
So they're more individually weak. The fact is that they're like each
pulling
on the Force, and there's no balance in the Force. Okay, so given off that logic, though, you would posit that Rey would have more Force capability in the learning curve. However, the thing is that like the real kind of draw that we have in is just Palpatine, because we still have Ben, who's still struggling in the Force, and apparently he turns good in Rise of Skywalker. But the thing is that he's conflicted in himself, so he would be like, kind of like dead in equilibrium. Like if we were to put him there,
I think he's. I'll say Kylo is more to the dark side for first two movies. To the dark
side. Even if you put him in limbo, you still have all the Knights of Ren and Snoke and presumably Palpatine.
Well, then again, in the movies we don't.
And also, however many dark side users we actually see Rise of Skywalker in that stadium.
Well, that's
debatable.
That's a whole different story.
Even if that's debatable, if those guys are even Force sensitive.
The thing is that considering that the Knights of Ren are even Force sensitive,
they are.
But the thing is that we don't see that in the movies.
That's true. We don't see that in the movies, but
that's another draw, right there. Like in my point is that we don't even see. Don't see that they're even Force sensitive because they're easily overpowered by Kylo.
We're not Rise of Skywalker yet.
We're not Rise of Skywalker. Okay, let's leave that and let's leave that for Rise. Let's go to.
Well, wait. A lot of my rebuttal rise on that.
Yeah.
Opinion.
One more thing about the Rey learning curve because my argument is different than his. Untrained Force wielding is not a new concept.
It is very much not.
It has been established. It has been around. We have seen. In my opinion, I think we've seen more ridiculous things than Rey's learning curve in Force Awakens. And I go back to New Hope. Luke used the Force, albeit with Ben's guidance, used the Force to guide the proton torpedo into the Death Star and blow it up. No training whatsoever, other than what little remote training they had on the Falcon. That's all.
That's just explanations.
An explanation, yeah. Like verbal explanation. That's all you really have. In the prequels, Anakin is somehow the only human at the age of 9 who can pilot a pod racer. Why? Because the Force is running through his veins. It gives him Jedi-like reflexes.
And he was born of the Force.
He's born of the Force, yeah. Power, and also
that whole thing happened.
It goes without saying that Rey obviously Palpatine lineage, so that there is that ground base. Didn't have it at the time. I'll acknowledge that. But one other example was Ezra from Rebels, being able to learn Force telekinesis without formal Jedi instruction.
Opening the holocron.
Yeah.
And also there's doing doing stuff that he was not
told about. So on that tangent,
before he started using the Sith.
On that tangent, I would say I did not finish
Rebels.
Just because I've had more exposure, I think, to the Star Wars canon, I'm more comfortable accepting the learning curve than you would be.
I haven't seen Rebels and
Clone Wars.
But I think you still have a lot of evidence though in A New Hope and the prequels.
I still think that they could have used better explanation and they could have implemented it better than what they had.
Yeah.
Although I'll give them that it was most difficult to introduce new characters in the Star Wars lore. And what they did with what they had at the time, although questionable, they could have, I'm having hiccups, I'm sorry. They could have done a little better than that, certainly. So, given this day and age, they could have had more common sense to bring more into the lore and explain that learning curve, but they didn't.
Despite the disagreements, we all have Force Awakens as the best film in the sequel trilogy.
We all agree that Force Awakens has its problems, but of all of them, it has the least problems and works the best.
Yeah. I think that having Hot and Die definitely drove a more dramatic death experience that was much needed.
One of those dramatic moments,
much needed as a twist.
Yeah,
something
honestly,
that
to kind of
could use.
Exactly. Well, which didn't have, by the way. But for what it was, Force Awakens.
That reminds me of a couple of things I kind of want to bring up.
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, because you reminded me of Han's death, and then we also didn't bring up about the snow battle, about how Kylo's fighting both Finn and Rey.
And I thought this goes into the learning curve tangent. Though.
Yeah,
kind of, but that wasn't really brought up.
Yeah,
and also kind of want to bring up Maz. Like the whole thing of Maz, like she's pretty. We see that she's pretty prominent throughout all 3 movies.
Mm-hmm. I see that she's force sensitive.
She got sidelined in Last Jedi.
Yeah. Kind of, but and for you just brought that up that she's force sensitive. There was I think it was a deleted scene or it wasn't they had the idea to film it but they didn't, where we see a shot of Maz actually using force push on a bunch of stormtroopers. Mm-hmm. They had idea.
Which film?
In Force Awakens. Oh. Like when they're attacking Maz's place.
Palace,
yeah. And like there's a scene where we were gonna see her use force push, but they didn't film it.
Okay.
And I believe it was said like I don't know if it was confirmed. Like you say, like it's perfectly canon. They didn't like cut it out of the canon. Like the original idea was she was gonna be force sensitive. I'm not sure if that's still canon or not.
Well, then again, there's enough evidence to suggest that she is.
I thought it was implied. Yeah.
It's kind of implied, although hidden.
Yeah.
That she is force sensitive with the shit that she like kind of suggests with leading characters and the fact her appearance when Rey's trying to like drawn to Luke's saber.
Yeah, how she just shows up.
Yeah, she kind of just shows up and she already knows what to say and
that's very true. That is very true. She
knew
exactly what to say.
Like she's force and in her own right.
And also like more than Yoda, she's actually a lot more like for Yoda. He like they're both almost the same age. Maz might be a little bit older. Like we see like Yoda, he feels as like he just feels more senile. Yeah. Versus Maz, who is actually completely like normal. Like even for being the same age, Yoda felt more senile. Well, Maz did not.
Well, and again, he's like you have to think about the trauma that Yoda went through, losing all those younglings and all his students and everything. That man himself, though, he's like a
landmark.
he's like a funny guy, even so. Like he's a funny, like little green man. He talks funny. He thinks funny, but he's also wise. It's like you have to think about the shit that he's endured and the shit that he's seen and he went through that we don't know.
All the stuff that Obi-Wan went through in Clone Wars.
I know that guy was still.
We're kind of starting going down the rabbit hole here. Force Awakens.
Yeah, we're breaking off a lot.
Yeah, we got a lot of ground to cover. We're 40 minutes in. We're gonna move on to Last Jedi.
Yeah,
at this point. So I'll start us off. Last Jedi. I think it goes without saying, probably the most polarizing Star Wars film of all time. Generally speaking, I think the highs are high and the lows are in the basement, as it were.
Yeah.
It does a lot of things well. I was not someone who had a problem with the expansion of the Force mythos. In fact, I think it was one of the strengths of the movie was at least setting up the Force dyad between Kylo Ren and Rey. Demonstrating that Leia has the ability to use the Force, and also just Luke's lectures on the Force and about the history of the Jedi Order. I thought that was all well done, and it expanded the mythology in a decent way. I liked the new Force abilities that we saw. Force, part of the dyad, but the whole Force Skype concept. I think it works. I think it's well executed on screen. The way they play with the audio.
No explanation to it.
No explanation to it, but that's common theme. But
wait, I just remembered something.
What?
If I remember,
not about Force Awakens, is it?
No, this is Last Jedi. If I remember correctly, Snoke actually says something about how they're like talking to each other.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he brings that up. Like he says
he was the one that linked their minds.
Exactly that.
By extension, Palpatine.
Yeah, by extension, Palpatine, because Palpatine was doing that, but also they didn't have anything with Palpatine yet.
So yeah, it does that well. It has some good action scenes. The Battle of what's it called? Battle of Crate. One of my favorite battles, or land battles in Star Wars. It's not on Battle of Hoth level, but I think it's entertaining. It's fun. It's exciting. It has I commented earlier. It has the distinct war film vibe that I think Rogue One gave with Battle of Scarif. So that's cool. Also, the throne room sequence. We'll get to the choreography later,
and other stuff.
I just want to bring up that for me, it was probably one of the most suspenseful moments in Star Wars history. Probably doesn't apply to you guys necessarily, or I don't know, but for me, I had no idea whatsoever which way things were going to go. I had no idea if Rey was going to turn or if Kylo Ren was going to turn. I thought one of them was going to turn. I was certain one of them was going to turn. As a fan, I thought, or as a fan, I wanted it to be Rey. As a critic, I expected it to be Ben, and in the end, it was neither of them. It was neither of them, and then I got pushed off for another movie. So, just the real time experience, seeing that for the first time was suspenseful, and I think one of the premier achievements of this movie. Generally speaking, I think I have this theory that Rian Johnson was actually marooned on Skellig Michael Island so that he could focus exclusively on shooting those scenes and developing Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren. And in fact, I think he's still there, probably hidden in a tent just off screen. If anything, to get away from the hatred of the negative fallout that followed from this movie. Because all those scenes are excellent. I think most of the scenes with Rey and or Kylo Ren and Luke are all really well done. The stuff with Poe is okay. It's decent and
debatable.
It's whatever. Like it serves a purpose. It furthers Poe's story arc into the leader. It had to happen. Execution. But Rose, Tico, the Tico sisters. My most hated character since Jar Jar Binks. In fact, it hurts a little bit more because, at least with Jar Jar, there was nothing to save in Phantom Menace. Last Jedi could have been excellent. It could have been an excellent film had it not been for the Tico sisters. Everything about them is flawed and does not work in this movie. At the beginning, the audience is expected to care and feel remorse for this person that is sacrificing themselves for the Resistance with no sort of backstory or explanation whatsoever. You guys complained about lack of exposition in Force Awakens. I think Last Jedi has its own problems with expecting the audience to feel something. Yeah. For Paige Tico when she dies.
I mean, the whole sequence of Paige Tico, we see she was in the bombing sequence, and we see during the bombing sequence, everybody's just dying left and right. Oh yeah, no. We actually
Resistance gets wrecked in this
movie. They got wrecked in that bombing sequence, and even one of the ships explodes, and actually shrapnel goes into one of the other ships and blows that ship up. And I don't know if that's this crappy ship design, because that's a pretty crappy ship if the whole of your ship is explosive. Right. Which it was. Yeah. And I don't know if that's bad ship design. And also, just they're killing everybody so fast. It really doesn't give us a point to care.
Yep, I agree. And the problems tend to follow the Ticos throughout this movie, in my opinion. Wherever they go, bad filmmaking follows. Because to Cancer Bite. You want to talk about Cancer Bite? Yeah, this could have been an excellent moment. It would have been a good opportunity for world building. In fact, a lot of the war profiteering stuff that God,
gun runners.
I meant to look up his character name before, but I just know him as Benicio del Toro, the actor. Yeah, Benicio del Toro. I forgot his name too. I don't remember his character name, and damn it, but Del Toro's name. Del Toro's character. He is trying single-handedly to save those scenes. Because I liked his explanation of the war profiteering stuff instead of gun runners. That was quality stuff. Where Cancer Bite got into trouble is when Rose Tico brought us down this animal rights tangent rabbit hole that's directed by Mickey Mouse instead of Rian Johnson, because he's stranded on the island and wasn't even there for any of these scenes. Yeah. They never sent him his helicopter. All that stuff is horribly done. The CGI of the actual, what are they called? Faudiers?
Something like that. I don't remember.
His CGI looks horrible. You could just I could just see the green screen behind them as it's going down.
A lot. I will give credits. They still use a lot of puppeteering through the sequels.
Oh, they do.
Thank God they did. They did a lot of puppets and practical effects.
They did. They were definitely
committed. Christ, they did.
But
not as much. You compare the use of puppets between the sequels versus the sequels versus the prequels. The sequels blow the prequels out of the water with how much puppets they use.
What do you think about how committed they are? For a location like Skellig Michael Island, that would have been a CGI location, or it would have been computer generated.
A lot of it would.
They would have just computer generated that thing. It was a lot of work. Like, to get those permits, like, it's a natural preserve. They had a lot of hoops to jump through the Irish government to get that. So that was impressive in its own right.
And like all the practical, one of the big practical effects. I give Last Jedi props for his practical effects.
One other flaw, or probably the biggest flaw, is like a fundamental filmmaking flaw: the editing. The editing down the stretch, when they're overlaying 3 stories of the throne room sequence, and then the Holdo maneuver, and then the stuff that's happening on Snoke's ship with Finn and Rose. By the way, Finn gets completely sidelined in this film. It's horrible. It's like day and night compared to Force Awakens. The editing's jarring. It's choppy. It makes it feel discontinuous. It's horrible.
Editing is not great. I'm actually the only one that notices between all of us is the choreography during the fights sequence of all the
choreography. Yeah.
The choreography between the fight of Kylo Ren and all the Praetorian Guard. Like you can if you actually look closely, you see like guys like doing stuff really stupidly. Like in one of the sequences, you see a guy actually throw his weapon away so he can get stabbed. Duel.
He hates it.
I hate it because I noticed it, and I noticed it, and then I saw a video where actual stunt performers actually go through and point out a shit ton of the mistakes.
Yeah.
And I showed it to them, and they agreed. They noticed it too now and agree with me that it's bad. Like, we see a guy throw his weapon away to get stabbed. A guy actually just blocks the lightsaber with his arms and just gets stabbed anyways. The disappearing weapon. That's a big thing that happens. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff and I'm not going to bother bringing up. The whole Praetorian Guard fight.
The highs are high, the lows are in the basement. That is Last Jedi.
And just Canto Bight in general.
I think one of the biggest issues was to introduce like a new director into this. Having Rian Johnson kind of take in where J.J.
Abrams he was stranded. He was on the island. He was directing the movie. He was directing like a third of the movie.
You see, the problem was that his specialty, as Black Shadow puts it, is developing like character arcs.
Right.
You see. And the thing was that you're switching one director with another. And say, what if J.J. Abrams had a different vision that Rian Johnson didn't have? And as he was developing Last Jedi, exactly.
You know what that vision is? It's the lightsaber over his shoulder.
And they actually like rebuttal a lot of that in Rise of Skywalker.
So I'll give it that. Like, there was a good explanation of the dyad, or the connection between Rey and Kylo Ren, and kind of like the explanation thereof of like the learning curve. I can kind of get behind that. It's kind of like, it was ridiculous how they kind of implemented that in Force Awakens, but they kind of explained that in Last Jedi. I'll give them that for trying, okay, but they could have implemented it better. However, but it's like, then again, like the change of directors, I think was like the biggest thing, where there's like conflicting like ideas, whereas like one has a vision, the other one has a vision, and Rian Johnson being the director of this movie, Last Jedi, he kind of gets a say in. And so then he plays his own vision, which kind of goes like conflicting with J.J. Abrams, in my opinion. And so, like, I think that was like kind of like the whole problem here. This is the premise,
and that's why Kathleen Kennedy is on the hot seat. By the way, like her whole strategy is to empower the directors to fulfill their vision. They did not have a clear cut plan from the beginning. So
I don't think they storyboarded. I think they just wrote.
Yeah, that. I'll give them that they tried to like employ character arcs where they had Rose Tico kind of like her debut, as you would put it, and to kind of like have her own story arc in the storyline. But to dismay, like there's a whole bunch of like uprising against like her character and a lot of discontent with that. Like, I feel that was like a huge flaw. Like, I remember specifically during that scene as we were watching, Black Shadow and I like poured ourselves a drink. We were just like,
as soon as she was ready to take the screen.
Exactly.
As soon as she was introduced.
Let's get ourselves a White Russian. Shout out to White Russian, by the way. Good drink. Old fashioned, really. And so we were just like, okay, we need a drink. Because like that whole like storyline was kind of like it kind of drawed away from like the main purpose that could have been like developing further arcs within the Star Wars lore with the characters you already introduced. But then again, you introduce a new character in Last Jedi and kind of like draw attention to that.
That serves no purpose.
Kind of like it serves no purpose, as you see in Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. Sorry, where they fucking do away with their character arc. Like all of a sudden, like okay, so it's useless. It was pointless.
Thanks, JJ.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Also, and the thing about Rose that she freaking her and Finn kissed like on crate.
Yeah, we even bring that up. That's its own problem.
Whatever.
Did we even talk about that?
No, it goes like
how
unnecessary it was.
Yeah, and Rise of fucking Skywalker, where they're like they seem actually cold to each other.
I thought she died.
For most of like Last Jedi, it actually looked like Rose and Finn, like they were just like in this together just to do it. Like they didn't do it because they were friends or anything. Because they needed Finn because he knew his way around the Star Destroyer, and they needed Rose because she's the engineer.
Right.
That was the only reason Rose was coming with.
See, I felt that Rose's character arc, I thought it was like impressive, or at the most like. Well, I thought it was intuitive that they would like introduce a new story arc in, or they would attempt to. It was awful. Like introducing that whole like several scenes were there with the casino and everything. I'm like, oh, that could have been so implemented so better. And I think that was a flaw that the fact that they like changed directors. Okay, and I think it was like a problem of visions on each part.
I blame Kathleen Kennedy for that.
I feel like
she should have reigned them in.
See, I feel that if they did have a vision to kind of concur with Black Shadow's like perspective on the whole thing, if they did have a set plan, and if the directors would kind of go along with that plan, I feel like that would have been that wouldn't have been an issue. But you see, the issue here was that the fact that these directors had their own vision, and the fact is that if you like kind of implement like each like director's like vision, it kind of like conflicts with each other and or with the storyline. And I feel like that was the most problem with Rise of Skywalker. Albeit like the most like my favorite part, honestly, was when they had Skywalker in. Like Luke Skywalker to come in with his debut with this fucking like his lightsaber in facing Kylo Ren, but Kylo was like full of rage. He fails to notice that he's just like a
force apparition,
like an apparition, exactly. And you just see him fight off. I feel like that was the greatest point in the movie for me because I felt like Luke Skywalker was just a big cuck, and he was here for like the biggest troll moment, and like the biggest troll moment,
greatest troll in Star Wars history.
Star Wars history, yeah. I felt like that was great in some like thing, like. But the thing is that like he dies after that. Like that was all the power he had to project his soul over to like fucking.
I was okay with the death.
I was okay with that.
Like I felt like the implementation of that was great. Like his death, like that was needed. Like I feel like the fact that they killed their like original characters, I feel like that would have added to the drama. Like as you're introducing new characters, you should die out.
Should be less important.
If only
because
Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia.
Yeah, you see that was another point.
Superman.
See, yes, okay, her Superman moment, as Black Shadow points out, where she uses the Force after she's blasted out of the fucking
explosive decompression, which actually alone would have just killed her.
Exactly. She uses she's just like floating in space. She opens her eyes, uses the Force power, and draws herself back into the fucking ship. Okay, I felt like it would have been more traumatic if he would have killed out her character right there and then. Then again, it's like they use that an excuse in Rise of Skywalker to like help Ben transfer back into the light side. I feel that they could have done without it, and thus I feel like that was an error in directing and or writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that like that whole sequence, her surviving and her using the Force, I feel that was a major flaw. And I feel like it would have been more traumatic, as we'll discuss later on with Rise of Skywalker, with Chewie's like supposed death. Like I feel like they could have had so much more drama, or the twists that they had in Empire Strikes Back. Like they could have implemented more of that in the sequel. Exactly. Yeah. They could have implemented more of those twists, more of those heart-wrenching turns or dramatic events in these sequels, but they didn't. They just had Carrie Fisher with her like supernatural powers come in and survive that whole shootout, and I thought that was ridiculous. I truly felt that was like that should have been a death. I remember my first time looking at the scene, me going, "What the fuck?" Like actually, like it was hard swearing. Not to laugh. I was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Why did she survive?" Other than the ends that she would then turn Ben. Like, okay, like I'll give you that. Like, really, but it's like flawed. Like, even though you could have used Rey to turn Ben. Like, there's obviously like a connection between them. You could have used the dyad and the Force between them to kind of solve that mystery or that like conclude that. But you don't. And you have Leia survive for what? For what? In Rise of like Skywalker, for the means that she just turns Ben and she dies. Like, really, you could have implemented that better, in my opinion. And so, like, having her survive or having her use that feat in Last Jedi, I thought that was preposterous. I truly was, like, that was, like, the turning point in the whole movie where I was disappointed. Like, that pretty much just crushed my soul. And I looked at that and I was like, wow, is that the best you have, Rian Johnson? I looked at that and I was like,
you didn't know his name at the time.
Trash. I did not. But I was like, whoever directed this or wrote this, I was like, this could have been implemented better. You could have done so much better. I'm like, is this to like not upset the fans? I'm like, you already had Han's death. Han is a superior character other than Leia, in my opinion, where he's most popular with the fans.
He's my favorite of the big three.
So, yeah, he's a popular character, but you have Leia survive.
Through all three movies.
Other than the main character, Han. So I was just like, wow. I'm like, okay, so you have Han die off in Force Awakens in a weak death, in my opinion. But I was just like, wow, okay, so you have Leia survive in a most preposterous way. Okay, then you learn, though, albeit you don't know at the time, that, like, it's sort of developed that Leia was, like, used the Force abilities and was, like, later taught. Like, and she had, like, some precognition where she saw the future. Okay, but does that give her, like, credit to have, like, does that give her, like, the purpose or ability to have these abilities to, like, overcome death? Because basically that should have killed someone.
It would have killed her. It would have killed her instantly.
Instantly, as, like, Wildman puts it. And so you have her survive just to die at the end. So I feel that was like a poor, like, character ending.
I mean,
the only thing
I think if they did do the explosive decompression death for Leia, it would have felt like cheap. Because if it would have been like that, it would have been nothing about it.
Yeah, it would have felt like cheap, but the thing is that they extended that scene by having her, like, a photo of her, or the image of her floating in space. If they didn't have done that, if they would have just had explode and then just, like, be like, Leia's gone, I felt that would have been more, like, climactic at the end. Because it's just like, then again, that
Delvin is a cheap kill.
It would have been a cheap kill, but then again, you would have had that feeling that she wasn't really developed in the Force. But then again, Rise of Skywalker kind of delves into the fact that she was.
Right. I was going to say that's the only thing that scene really does is establish a establishes a precedent. Yeah. Establishes a precedent for the reveal that she was trained.
Yeah, I feel like they could have done without that, and I feel like in my opinion, the beginning of, like, Last Jedi I felt that it was interesting to have the rebels attack first in the beginning. I thought that was, like, interesting, other than, like, if you see with Force Awakens, you see how, like it's kind of
like
like
how
similar
Poe
to
flies
New
out and
Hope,
attacks the-
and how the director and or like the writers
Dreadnought.
like kind of like refer back to the framework of New Hope to kind of give you that familiar feel for like fans and whatnot. I feel like if they would have been more adventurous, that they would have succeeded more. I thought it would have been more interesting to the Star Wars lore. But you see that kind of like turn, like how the rebels attacked first rather than being attacked first by their empire. So I feel that like having them attack first and then like ultimately fail, I feel that was like evident in their like their numbers and their capabilities. I feel, albeit that you have Poe, like an amazing pilot, like God, that guy's amazing, like holy shit. But it's just like albeit you inevitably seen that they were like set to fail, and the rebels would attack first. I thought that was an interesting beginning, but then you draw back to Leia just having this force ability to awaken from her, like what was that like that shock of getting shot out into space. I feel like that was like weak, and that could have been like addressed more thoroughly. And I feel that was like a ploy to then enact in Rise of Skywalker to tie into her training, as we do see. And I feel like that could have been addressed thoroughly, and I feel like that was weak play in writing and in directing. Rian Johnson. I feel like you were trapped. Calling you out,
very
man.
much calling him out.
Because that vision, like, I don't know what the fuck you were thinking, man.
You like Knives Out either?
I did not like Knives Out.
Who
I felt that whole plot line was
Rian Johnson,
predictable.
buddy.
Yeah.
But, like...
Editing. Not Last Jedi.
Editing.
Not Last Jedi.
That was not the discussion from Last Jedi.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So, I felt like there was a huge flaw in the fact that the director changed, and that, like kind of poses a threat to visions between directors, and the fact that if you implement a new director, then revert back to the same director who orchestrated Force Awakens back into Rise of Skywalker, that poses a threat to the story.
Since that keeps coming up, I will point out really quick, original trilogy did have a different director for each movie. The biggest difference, it did.
Oh.
George Lucas did A New Hope, and then Irving Kershner did Empire Strikes Back, and then Richard Marquand did Return of the Jedi. The biggest difference between that and this is George Lucas was the writer. George Lucas wrote the entire script at the beginning, and then he divided it into 3 parts, which became 3 movies. That's
and even then for the prequel trilogy.
It's same thing for the prequel trilogy. Yeah,
he was actually there directing most of it and writing.
Prequel trilogy, is like he was. I don't know if there has been a franchise that has been as
polarizing.
Polarizing, yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know if there's a trilogy that's been as heavily regulated, like at the time in its production, as the prequel trilogy was.
Yeah.
George Lucas was intimately involved with everything that happened, and that's where a lot of its problems come from. Is that there was no collaboration, there was no pushback. Like when people told him that something didn't work, he would not hear of any of it, and he got into it with his actors. But why are we talking about the prequels? That's a dark rabbit hole.
That's a different video for another day. That's probably not going to come up.
No, that's some other generation can do that.
Yeah.
So my biggest criticism is the fact that director change, and I feel like that kind of poses the problem of visions between the 2 directors, unless there was like some secret like idea that or like some planning or framework that we weren't aware of as fans and our viewers between the 2 directors for the end. But I feel like that was like a huge problem, and I feel like implementing that could have went way better. And I feel like there's posed too much like attention to Rose Tico. I'm not gonna like he hates Rose Tico as a character.
How much comedy is actually
like all that? I feel like you could have done well without it. I feel like if you were just addressed her as a minor character, or just like as a character, a side character. I feel like rather than giving her like fucking debut with the casino scene and like the Star Destroyer scene and everything with John Boyega or Finn, Like, I feel like I could have done way better without it, and there goes the camera. and so...
Yeah, this film hits rock bottom when Rose pulls the saddle off the fatty, and he's like, no, it's worth it.
So, I like, my general opinion is that, like, my whole problem is addressed to the directing and ideas between the two, like, J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. I feel like that was, like, the issue. And I feel like implementing, like, even the choreography as Wildman, like, introduced, like, the choreography was off. Definitely you see pauses in the fight scene in the throne room where characters, like, disappearing, like, weapons and, like, pauses and fighting. Like, then again, there's that element of whether Rey will actually succumb to the dark side or will Ben or Kylo Ren turn. And I felt that like that kind of mysterious like element. I thought that was great. I thought that was implemented well.
I have one more thing to bring up with the choreography is they compared to the prequels. For prequels they actually had to slow down the footage because they're actually moving so fast because they've done it a billion times. That was one thing I want to bring up.
Because the stuntmen have done it a million times?
No, because the actors. Because
actors.
Even like, well, yeah, Maul's character was
Ray
done
Park.
by Ray Park. He was a stunt guy, but then you have Ian
Dixon
McGregor.
was a martial artist.
No, yeah, they just done the whole series a billion times, and they're just naturally doing it. They're not even thinking of it. So they actually had to slow down the film because they're moving so fast.
So
that's one thing I want to bring up because that is popped in my head.
So like the idea is that my criticism stems with directors and visions and choreography definitely is a flaw. And that last scene where you see Broomstick Kid. Broomstick Kid. And his like force sensitive capabilities at the end, if you noticed, in The Last Jedi.
Which you did not.
And
Which you did not, yeah.
I was drunk.
One thing we kind of brought up just before we started hold up maneuver, but one of the things that we brought up just before we started filming was
I think we just kill that. I think we can kill that camera.
Kill it? Alright.
If there was even the slightest semblance of vision, just like with, even if they had a simple understanding where they were starting, where they were going, then the end scene with Broomstick Kid would have been the perfect chance for them to introduce, or at least hint, that Palpatine is going to be dropping in the next film. But they didn't, because that wasn't understood at the time. That
wasn't planned at all.
That wasn't planned at all. No, that was JJ's answer to not having a villain anymore. With Snoke.
Having a big bad, because even then Vader wasn't, because even for 5 and 6 we had Palpatine for 5 and 6.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Snoke was supposed to be the new Palpatine for the sequels, but then he killed him off and then he killed him.
And there were crises like they expected Kylo to carry on.
Like in that one scene,
they sidelined Hux and they.
Well, isn't there that one scene in New Hope where you see Vader kind of kneeling down to this like?
That's Empire.
That's Empire.
That's Empire.
He's kneeling to Palpatine.
Yeah, that's Empire.
It
was only Vader for New Hope.
Okay.
Get rid of Broomstick Kid. Just hint that Palpatine is still there.
There's no hint.
Special edition.
A special edition. Take out Broomstick. Take out the whole thing with Broomstick Kid and actually add something with like Palpatine.
I know the fact that
the Wayfinders or just like the announcement going out.
But they had no idea that's why they didn't do it.
See,
that's why they failed.
That's why what I think is the major flaw.
Do that for a special edition, like they did for the
sequel. Fixed. So unlike the original trilogy, I think this trilogy would benefit from special editions.
It would. Yeah. Well, I mean, the original trilogy did have some things that helped.
So like
I think for sequels, it was just more visual, just fixes.
To concur on that, it's like the flaw is that like the plotting and the director vision and the writing is like it takes a major turn and it kind of draws away from like the congruency that you would see with the storyline.
I think we're repeating ourselves.
You see, well, I know, but it's just like my final like words to concur with them. Wildman and Black Shadow. It's just like the fact that so much is evident that director vision is like the major like problem here. Is that with Broomstick Kid at the end with the ring, it's like, okay, what? The seed of rebellion has been implanted in the young, and they get the message.
That's your justification why Blade Mizraw happens at the end of Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, but it's just like, then in, like, Rise of Skywalker, you see this message, oh, we'll touch this later, you see this message that, like, in the opening credits, that Palpatine has come back from the dead.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that when we talk about it.
I think we can go. I think we can start on Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. I think we should start on Skywalker.
The Last Jedi, highs are high, lows are low, so very low.
Yeah.
Very low. Probably the most flawed Star Wars film since, I don't know, like Attack of the Clones. Maybe?
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, probably Attack of the Clones.
But...
Oh, good.
You wanna?
No, go ahead.
I wanted to direct this one. Okay, so...
the prequels are...
So I haven't seen it as much as Black Shadow here. But my opinion of The Rise of Skywalker, we see, like, further, like, character development. We see Rey developing into being a Palpatine, which was unbeknownst to us, and that kind of, like...
Added something.
Like, it adds something, yeah. An element of surprise that we didn't know. And so that adds, like, that element that was just, like, kind of, like, explains her learning curve in the Force, in my opinion. It's just, like, she's a Palpatine. Palpatines are powerful, as like, one with the Sith, as Emperor Palpatine is. And so it's, like, as her birthright, it would kind of, like, lean the fact that she would be powerful in the Force as well, considering the fact that we see later on in the movie that Emperor Palpatine is one with all the Sith before him. He is the embodiment of all the Sith. And so, like... The Sith, yeah. And so, like, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was great. But it's just, like... Being, like, the first two movies, like, having a feel for it. Like, the directing and writing was so flawed. Like, I feel like it was the great... Like, for me, the ranking was 7, 8, 9... Because 7, you're introducing new characters into, like, the whole story arc. You're introducing the whole concept and blah, blah, blah. The whole dyad thing and, like, Last Jedi. And then it's just, like, you end abruptly with, like, the excuse that was Rise of Skywalker. And I say the excuse of Skywalker for the fact is that you, like, ended abruptly. Like, it was just a sad excuse for the end of a trilogy. Like, there's so much that could have been done. First, you have, like, that whole thing in the beginning with, like C-3PO's, like, finest moments. Like, that, I thought the whole thing was stupid. That was whole, like, what, for comedic purpose? Or to, like, feel, like I fill some gaps? Like, you have him, like, come in. He talks more, like, than I've ever seen in my life.
You would think it's to send off that character.
Yeah, but it's just like, then he comes back with his memory back, and you're like, really?
Like, he comes back, like, he starts, it's a fresh reboot.
Yeah.
And then later he gets, like, his memories back, but a while back memories. Like,
so,
this is like C-3PO a few months before.
Like, as a viewer, I'm watching this, and I'm saying, okay, you're killing off old characters, then you bring back fucking C-3PO's memory. And I'm just like, okay, so that happened, so he's intact still. I think that for, like, for story arc purposes, he should have kept his memory. Like, there should... Like, I get it.
For narrative purposes.
Like, for narrative purposes, his memory should have been, like, gone. But I see how it...
Logically, it made sense.
Yeah. Like, it makes sense.
They could have done that. They could have given his memories back at, like, the end of the movie. Like,
yeah.
Where we see it wrapping up. Like, when they're all celebrating after Exogol.
Yeah.
And then we see R2 as,
that would have been fine. I wouldn't have cared as much.
It'll actually work better, because, like...
Say, the
R2
fact
remember,
is that...
oh shit, wait, I got his memories backed up.
Like, he's back there. He's like he's under a tarp or something. Forgot.
Like, oh,
say, the thing is that you bring back his memories in the middle
movies.
of the movie for no purpose whatsoever that we don't see.
But I think they could have done something similar.
See, I think that was a major flaw. And the fact that you had an opportunity to kill off Chewie and have a major blow to the audience. Which you did not.
Personally, I'm actually okay to do.
Say
they're okay. For the thing with Chewie, like the guy's got to do a lot of shit.
See, the guy went through a lot of shit, but it makes sense that if Han goes first, Chewie follows second. He would have been the most heart-wrenching death. That would have been a twist that the sequel would have needed.
I'm actually happy they didn't.
See, I think that
for nostalgic purposes,
just
for narrative
purposes, it kind of would piss me off.
See, that exactly. No. See, the thing is that, like, both me and Black Shadow agree on is that, like, it would have played into Rey.
Yeah,
it would have been into, like, some emotional, like, draw to the fact that Rey would have been the one to kill Chewie, unbeknownst to her of her Palpatine powers.
It would have serviced Rey's character.
It would have serviced her character.
She
didn't.
So much.
They actually thought he was dead for a while.
See, he should have stayed.
Wasn't that long.
Was it?
No, it was like 3 minutes.
It was 3 minutes.
Yeah.
See, like, Chewie should have died.
It felt long the first time, but
Chewie should have died
second and third
at the end. It only makes sense. Like, if you kill off Han, you gotta kill off, like, his beloved friend.
What about the Falcon? Doesn't Captain die with the ship?
Kevin goes down the ship, and after Han, it'll have been Chewie.
Well, then it does kind of make sense, though. It's like when you need help, you send the Falcon out, and the Falcon comes back with reinforcements. I feel that was great. I thought that was great.
How the Resistance came back from the Falcon, a broken lightsaber, and probably like 15 people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How it came back from that.
Like, I feel that
born to try to figure
they had a missed opportunity with the death of Chewie. I feel like that could have been, like, a huge blow. That would have been so, like...
It would have been a dramatic...
It would have been a dramatic blow. Then it would have been, like, a twist that none of us would have seen. And I feel like that, like, knowing from the original trilogy, we see Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader is actually Luke's father. That was a twist. That was a huge twist in the history of cinema, as we see. And I feel that they could have implemented such, like, I mean, it would have been as, significant, but it could have been a twist with having Rey have killed Chewie in that moment, unbeknownst to her. Like, right by her powers, unexpectedly. And I feel like that they missed an opportunity right there in the writing or directing. And I feel like that would have been a huge blow for me, because I remember my first time, I was like, holy shit, they just killed Chewie. I was like, oh!
I actually pieced it together secondhand.
Yeah, I was like, oh my. Like, that would have been so much more satisfying as a death.
It was actually very shocking that they made it look like that, and then, like,
that felt like
what sounds like a few minutes later they showed he's actually still alive.
And then they have the comedic relief later on, like, after announcing that he survived.
They turn it into a punchline. They really do. Like,
yeah.
So, like, General Hux is the one that announces that, hey, we got a prisoner, he's alive, and he's the one that introduces him to the Legion General guys. Like, the Beast used to fly with Han Solo.
And then Chewie roars on him.
Yeah, Chewie roars on him. So,
he flinches.
They turn Chewie's death, his resurrection into a punchline almost.
Yeah.
It's inappropriate. It doesn't work.
That's happened.
My issue is that...
And also, that dude's ship was not, like, eaten by Jawas.
That's true.
Because it would have.
And then also, is that the ship of that, what was he, a bounty hunter?
The Jedi Hunter?
No, Jedi Hunter. Was he Jedi Hunter?
Was it Jedi Hunter?
Okay.
I believe so.
So that one guy who's supposedly a hunter or bounty hunter or whatever.
The ship that they took?
So the ship was left alone. And it was just left there for centuries without Jawas.
Plot convenience is
what was it? Tatooine?
Where they were?
Yeah.
No, they were on Tatooine. They were on a different planet. But it's safe to assume that most desert planets have Jawas.
Okay, so
even if they don't,
like the whole, it was just the fact.
My car unlocked.
It was just the fact that the ship was left alone.
I think the door was open too. I think the door was open.
Okay, so it was just the fact that the ship of this guy that they're looking for with the little dagger, it was left unharmed for all these years.
It still flew.
And it still flew. So it's just the fact that, like, there should have been some material damage, some fact that the ship had run, the fact that it should have been ransacked or something.
It's a plot device. It's a plot convenience.
And, like, actually, no, but Rizzo was still just there in general.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
like for Jawas, it'll probably just been, like, the frame and stuff. It's other stuff they didn't take.
I'm
surprised no one, like, driving by on, like, a speeder or something, like, sometime, like, at most, like, a couple weeks after that guy's disappearance, didn't just walk up there, hotwire it, and just fly off.
And what about Tusken Raiders?
They all have done the same thing as Jawas.
Exactly. Like, it's just the fact that no one ransacked this shit.
Tusken Raiders and Jawas have done the same thing. They scrapped it.
Dude, the plot convenience is
I feel that
that's probably the biggest plot armor I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Is that thing.
So that was just, as Black Shadow said, plot convenience. And I also feel that, like, the healing of that weird, like, desert snake thing.
Yeah, Force heal.
And then having, like, the Force heal. I feel that was also a plot convenience. And that just added to the story of, like, later introduced. I feel that should have been implemented in Force Awakens somehow. I feel that should have been addressed earlier rather than dropped upon you in this Rise of Skywalker. Like, honestly...
But you were already pissed at the Rey learning curve in Force Awakens. If they added that, it would be even worse.
The thing is that if they... Okay, yeah, I was pissed at that, but the thing is that if they would have addressed that efficiently, and then addressed that same healing thing efficiently as well with the dyad in the beginning... So, I come back with the death of Chewie. I feel that was a missed opportunity. Could have been a draw to emotional appeal.
Or serviced Rey's character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we jump to Poe and his friend on that one planet.
You probably know that planet's called.
I don't fucking remember the planet or the chick.
Kijimi.
Kijimi and...
Alright, Kijimi.
The fuck is his name?
Kijimi's Zori.
Zori?
Kijimi, Zori, and Babu Freak.
So, yeah, it's just the fact that, like, if that would have been addressed sooner, it was like having, like, potential allies... like, later seen, like, as we see in, like, how the Rise of Skywalker further develops in the end, I feel that there would have been a strong, like, character pull in, especially since you have the comic relief of Babu Freak.
Who is the best character in this entire trilogy?
So, best character is a hot take.
Shut up.
That's a hot take.
Wow. Okay, I feel like that Babu Freak was that comic relief.
That was more of a joke than
I feel like
he's the best character in this movie.
I feel like Babu Freak was like that comic relief that was long needed in Last of Jedi that we didn't see. And I feel
Rose
like
was supposed to be your comic relief.
She was not a comic relief. God damn.
It was Luke. Luke was a comic relief in Last Jedi.
Oh my god. Okay, I feel like introducing their character arcs sooner would have been further developing, and like I feel like you would have been able to draw more into the story arc than just focusing on that one chick and Babu Freak.
And also
like,
Poe being
on them and that planet.
Poe being a spice runner.
Yeah, Poe being a spice runner, and then like the back and forth, like, you were a spice runner? Were you a stormtrooper? Were you a spice runner? Were you a scavenger? We're gonna do this all day.
Dude, that was actually one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
See, I think that was great, but it's like,
it was funny, but it also like underlined like the central thesis of this like trilogy, and that is like the whole we're trying to differentiate between lineage and deeds. You are what your actions make you. So I really like that scene with whole spice runner, scavenger.
Like I think that scene was great, but I feel like the implementing like the like Poe being from a spice runner like origins or his like his background like in the beginning rather than being like shrouded in mystery throughout the whole series. I feel like if it would have been like implemented sooner, I feel that would have been further developed as like character arc. Like if he would have been further like delve into his past, I feel like that was a flaw.
See, I don't think it was necessary because that wasn't his arc. His arc was becoming a leader, like from a gung-ho pilot.
But I feel like if you would have just that sooner, that would have made sense.
This is supplemental backstory stuff.
Like into his shit, yeah. So I feel that was an issue. I thought that the development with like Babu Freak being comic relief, I thought
it worked.
It was good. I thought Babu Freak was amazing. We need a story, like a Star Wars story for that guy. We need it bad. Alright, so I love Babu Freak. Alright, so hey! Okay, so like I thought that was good. I thought the whole scene, like with C3PO, shut the fuck up! C3PO losing his memory. I thought that should have
like
saved
him
for the
going
end.
like full like saying stuff in Sith.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing. I thought that was great. He was like, "Who the fuck are you like hanging out with? Who's speaking Sith?" I thought
Where?
that.
How did she know? Okay,
I thought
how
that.
did you know what the hell the Sith was? Yeah.
Like, okay, that was questioning, but I thought that whole
the Sith seemed to be more common knowledge than the Jedi.
Yeah,
in this movie, even though the Sith have been dead for a lot longer.
Yeah,
so
even like Mandalorian which is actually closer to the Clone Wars rather than this movie was.
Yeah.
And in freaking Mandalorian, nobody knows like, oh, this kid might be something with the Force, or this kid might be this kid might be like Jedi or something. Like, no one made that connection.
Right.
And this was closer to the Clone Wars. And a couple of these guys were actually born during the Clone Wars.
So, like, all in all, I thought that scene was...
Mando was born during the Clone Wars.
Well, I thought that scene and everything was great. I thought that was a good implementation. Like, although it could have been better if it was implemented, like, sooner. Like, in the trilogy, rather than later at the end of the movie. Or at the end of, like the whole, like, story arc as it was implemented in Rise of Skywalker. I thought that could have been better. But, and then we were, like, moved to Rey, and then her fight with Kylo Ren as they search for the, what was it called?
The Sith Wayfinder.
The Sith Wayfinder.
Yeah.
So, like, I thought that
AKA Holocron.
It wasn't a holocron.
So I thought that was great. I thought that was a good scene. Like, you see, like, additional characters that rebelled against the Empire, and it was just like, okay. And then you see people that are... like, also, like, Finn, and then they kind of, like, fit in the story. Although that one scene where that chick's just, like, jumps back, like she jumps puts her feet into the fucking, like, hole as soon as Finn does it. Like, no way! You escaped the Empire, so did I! Holy shit!
Oh, that thing.
I was like, okay, like, what is this, like,
that was
a
Finn,
slumber
not
party shit?
That was Finn.
Or Finn.
He's talking about the part where Finn was communicating with
one chick,
I don't know her
Fizzy,
name.
the fuck Rizzo.
Lando's kid?
Yeah, Lando's kid.
Yeah.
Lando's kid.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. That girl is like, I think it's confirmed that girl is Lando Calrissian's kid.
Say what?
Yeah.
I thought it was almost given away. It
kind of was.
Why? Because he's like, well, find out.
Let's find out, yeah.
No, well, it was that, and also like First Order stole children.
You're just saying that because she's black.
No, fuck you, fuck you. No, these like the First Order got all the stormtroopers. They kidnapped kids. That's what Finn was, and that's what that girl was. She was stolen as a kid. And was made into a stormtrooper by the First Order. That's what happened to Lando's kid. His kid was taken to the First Order.
Where was that said?
He said it himself.
He did?
Yes.
In this movie?
Yeah. Like Lando said, like they came and took our children. He said it himself.
I don't think he was talking specifically about
that
his
part.
kid. I don't fucking remember.
I
was drunk.
It was at the end of the movie. Was I the only motherfucker here that was sober? I watched that movie.
I drove.
Man.
You drove.
I was drunk.
You were shit faced the entire time.
Oh,
but yeah, he said it's like the end of the movie, like when it's all over, they're celebrating. He sat down with the girl and started talking.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
You brought that up. Yeah.
I don't remember the part where he said my kid was taken.
Yeah, like no, like he said our children was taken.
I think he was just talking like as a species as a whole.
I don't remember the take.
It wasn't.
If so, that's where I would kind of think of like what he was talking about.
Also, it revealed, and also, I know what you were talking about, but it revealed that she was First Order when she said, like, when they were fixing the Falcon and she was, like, handing him First Order parts, and, like, Finn was saying, like, this is First Order stuff. Like, yeah, me and the rest of the people here, we were First Order. We insubordination, and we went AWOL.
See, I thought that was great. I thought that was good. I thought that was implemented well.
Yeah, I actually like that.
I was like, I like that scene. I did. So, and then you have Rey venture out with the fucking Skeeter.
Yeah, that's that boat.
Whatever that boat thing, the fucking whatever. And so she ventures down on herself. She uses the dagger.
Skimmer.
Was that blood though?
Huh?
Yeah, that's. Did you notice when she pulled out, like she had the dagger?
Yeah.
She like pulled out
on the tip of the blade. I thought it was.
See, I noticed something was red.
I saw that, but I don't think.
I noticed the wince, and then I see the blood. I'm like, where did that? I'm like, what? You're not gonna address that? You're gonna have her wound herself and not address that at all? I thought that was like weird.
That would have been a Chekhov's gun.
See, I thought that was weird.
That would have been a Chekhov's gun.
See, I thought that
they
was.
They'll have brought that up.
Yeah, I thought that was weird in itself, and I thought that was completely unnecessary. The fact that she like winces and she like pulls that thing, and there's nothing reference to it after that. There's just like that little red mark or blood or whatever the hell it was, and I was like, "Is that blood?" I thought that was.
I didn't notice that.
So yeah, the really minor details here, though.
Okay, sorry.
A TIE fighter that has life support,
or hyperspace,
or hyperspace for that matter.
Yeah.
That hyper jump.
Yeah, TIE fighters don't have that. First Order do, but not Empire.
Well, then again, they're New Order though.
No, yeah, First Order has hyperspace. TIE fighters have hyperspace, but not Empire TIE fighters. They don't have life support or hyperdrives.
And why are you referring to this in there?
Because Kylo Ren went to Exogol in an Imperial TIE fighter, which does not have life support or hyperdrives.
Well, you have to assume that his shit's like cut like better than the rest.
No,
it's, like,
like when he was left on.
It's implied that he took one of the Imperial TIE fighters that were left in the Death Star.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Like when because Rey stole his TIE fighter and went back to the planet.
Okay.
And then she burned it.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't at that part yet. We still haven't discussed like her traveling back to the island.
Yeah, because you brought up he brought up this kind of like point about that little tick at the end, and then it just brought me to like how Kylo took that TIE fighter to Exogol.
Well, we're still at the skimmer though. we didn't discuss like her fight. With
Sinister's
Kylo.
planning on guiding us through the entire plot.
Yeah,
We haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
So we're going to the plot line.
That right now.
We're kind of doing the plot line.
We are holding back all our rebuttals.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing rebuttals out left and right.
Sorry.
I'm holding mine. I'm ready to go. Like, full lawyer, but it's okay.
Okay. So then we have the fight. Yeah. I thought that was okay. I thought that was okay.
Nice throwback to two-handed lightsaber duels.
Yeah, two-handed lightsaber duels.
And like how it was a drag. I felt that fight was a drag.
I'm gonna refer to Kylo Ren as like conflicted Ben here. So it's like it was a fight between Rey and conflicted Ben. I say conflicted Ben because in this video or in this movie, you see Kylo Ren or Ben at this point like he's more like calm-headed, level-headed, as like a Black Shadow had told me earlier in confidence. Kylo Ren is more level-headed in this movie than he is in the previous, in the sequels, in 7 or 8. So in 7 and 8, we see him lash out with rage and anger. We don't see that in this episode 9 here, Rise of Skywalker. So you see him battle out. You see him calm, level-headed. He drops this thing. That's why I call him conflicted Ben, because at this point he's killed Snoke and he doesn't know what to do. He's already completed what he thought was his mission or what he thought he had to do, and at this point in battle he's fighting. Then he hears his mother's voice. Then his mother's voice. Then he drops his saber. Rey picks it up, kills him,
stabs him. He's still alive.
That's important.
Okay, sorry.
People tend to forget.
He didn't die. He was still alive.
I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, he stabs him and whatnot, leaves him wheezing and whatnot. She implements the thing we saw with the snake where she heals him and all that. And then afterwards she escapes in his ship, or not escapes, sorry. She leaves on his ship and then just flies away back to the island where she saw Luke. Okay, so in the scene that follows afterward, we see Ben at this point. I'm not going to call it Kylo Ren at this point. It's Ben. We see Ben with Han. At this point, I realized that Ben was a raging schizophrenic. I'm like, this fucker has heard the voices of whom? Snoke, Rey, Palpatine, Vader. Leia, and Han and Vader. He's heard all these voices, then he's seeing Han, who he shouldn't have seen. Why is he seeing Han? I'm like, what the shit? And then Han's like, oh, I'm you. Your doubt. I'm here to hear you. And so, all this shit. And I'm like, holy shit, he's a raging schizophrenic. I'm like, holy fuck. At this point in time, I'm like, this man has problems. I'm just like, holy shit.
I think a lot of people in this movie just have problems in general.
I was just like, why is he seeing Han? Like, I feel like it should have been Leia, not Han. I feel like introducing Han as I feel like Leia succeeded where Han didn't. And see, the fact that she reached out with her voice and touched his heart.
Is that what happened, or did she distract him and Rey stabbed him, and then he had a long period of reflection?
As he's dying,
at point which he's being bombarded with his feelings for his mother, for Rey, and like flashbacks to his dad.
Yeah, like
all those three things.
Yeah, this like completely like connection between these two.
Yeah, these three things are weighing heavy. I don't look at it as just like I. That's the only way I can conceptualize this scene.
I feel that
because otherwise it's just.
As a reflection, I feel that he was already having doubts. He was conflicted.
He was having problems in Last Jedi.
In Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Force Awakens had problems, but
you're really big into these precedents and laying shit out like beforehand. That is one thing that has been here since the beginning.
Well, then you do see that he has problems with like his. He always references his mother. He's like, I can go back to her. Like, there's, like, some, like, issue between he and his mother. Like, he has some, like, unresolved issues where he's just, like, a mama's boy or whatnot. So there's, like, a psychological effect on him with, like, his mother. And so, like, I feel that he was kind of drawing on that when he was talking even to, like, the ghost of his father. And so, like, the whole...
ghost is a hallucination?
Whatever. Like, to him.
That could have been anything.
Like, to him. Like, I'm just saying the perspective of, like, Kylo Ren. Or Ben. So, like, the thing is that, like, he's having this issue where he's, like, conflicted already. Then he's having Ben, who she shouldn't have seen. I feel like it would have been better if it would have been Leia. Because he's already having issues. Like, he's already, like, calling out to her, like, referencing her. In Force Awakens, Last Jedi. Then, like, she finally passes away. He senses it. I feel it should have been her, because she succeeded where Han failed. Han died. Because he wasn't one with the Force or anything. And I feel like it should have been Leia, who would have been, like, her Force ghost coming in, talking to Kylo Ren.
I generally agree with that.
I feel that was, like, a missed opportunity right there.
But then, like, if they went with Leia over Han,
they'd have to do
the
Tarkin tech.
They had to do a resurrected actor,
which seems like they were trying to avoid.
They were trying to avoid that because one, they have to find someone who sounds like her, and they'll have to do a whole animation of this painting a whole bunch of people rather than just painting Harrison Ford, just do those few lines.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to do a whole like CGI character.
Yeah.
To do which.
Well, to be fair, I don't think it couldn't have been cheap to drag Harrison back in. He wanted nothing to do with this trilogy after Force Awakens.
Yeah, it's true, but also it actually probably would have been cheaper just to have him come in rather than just pay a whole bunch of animators to do that and a new voice actor just for Leia.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure they did not have the lines of her actually saying the stuff she would have said.
Yeah, there's no way.
No way.
For story arc reasons, that would have made sense.
And
in my opinion,
off screen would have been just as bad.
So like, I don't think it would have been
doing like an off screen Leia, like she's kind of on screen but she's mostly off screen. It'll have been just as bad.
I think
they had to make a judgment call.
I mean, like judgment call wise, like okay. I get that, but story arc wise, I think that would have been better for the best. I think they could have done without it. I think they could have made the sacrifice, even though it was a supposed judgment call from Wildman, like his perspective. I think they could have made that like idea, and they could have like made that reality. And I think that would have been better for all, like for fitting purposes. I think that would have made sense rather than saying Han, other than making Kylo Ren or Ben, just a raging schizophrenic. So then we're dragged.
Him and Rey could have been schizophrenic because there's a lot of weird shit goes on around them.
Mm-hmm. That it does.
Yeah. So then we're turned to
sleep at night.
That one scene in the island where we have Rey just like crash that ship that Kylo Ren had or Ben had. And then she throws her lightsaber into
burning it.
They're burning it. And she throws her lightsaber, or the lightsaber that was supposedly broken, then fixed again, into the wreckage. And then there's Luke's Force Ghost kind of guiding her. And I thought that was great. I thought that was just like kind of Luke making a statement saying that I'm not going to make the mistake that my masters did before me, and I'm going to push you in this direction.
And mistake I made.
Yeah. Because, like, if you'd notice, like, back in Empire Strikes Back, Yoda and Obi-Wan kind of let Luke do whatever the hell he wanted and whatnot. Here, Luke is being the master that he, like, the ideal master, in my opinion. Like, he was doing what he thought should have been done. And he kind of stands out amongst the rest of the masters, in which he kind of directs Rey into this, like, this path in which Yoda or, like, Obi-Wan didn't. Because they let him do what the hell he wanted.
They told him not to.
They told him not to, but they didn't force him in this direct path, in which Luke actually did to Rey. And I thought that was great. And I thought that was, like, he was the ideal master that, like, not the one that Rey deserved, but the one she needed. So I felt that was great. I thought that was great. First of all, I thought that was just, like, having great to have Luke kind of, like, step up amongst the rest of the masters and guide Rey. Rather than just, like, using his words, he actually forces her into this direction, in which she's forced to go into the system with the Force, and goes to this one fucking planet, I forget the name. Exogol. And so, like, then we're thrust into Exogol, where she leads the rebellion through, like, the Luke's X-Wing, and blah blah, and then they're there, and then the whole rebellion's like,
if you're gonna go, quick before we leave the island, I want to point out probably my biggest issue with this island sequence is I had a hard time accepting Leia's Jedi training, the Tarkin technology flashback, and for them to posit so far as to say that not only had she been trained by Luke, but she was actually almost done. She was on the last day of her training and she already had a lightsaber. I found that problematic just because I am quite familiar with much of the extended canon, and nowhere, anywhere in films or novels or anything else has there been the slightest reference that Leia, or at least in the canon stuff, there is in Legends. But
yeah, Legends.
There's no existing canon that really supports the supports that behavior. Almost everything in existence basically tells her story of trying to set up the New Republic to function effectively. It didn't work. It failed. Eventually, she was ostracized as a warmonger. Specifically, when the First Order arose, she was the one that was calling for direct action initially. And she struggled with her colleagues for the longest time, and then eventually she got tired of the politics and just made the terrorist organization that we know of as the Resistance, and that was working under government funding from the New Republic. So I found that really jarring. The biggest way to remedy that is just to go with the what you guys pointed out off screen, was that both Luke and Leia were very young in that flashback sequence, so it could be supposed that, I don't know, like, as soon as they were done drinking blue milk and the celebration on Endor, they went straight behind the tree and started training, like, to do Jedi training for Leia. Like, they started that immediately. They went from the party to, like, the first lesson of Jedi training. So and then, like, after all that, like, however long that took, then she got involved in politics, which could maybe explain why she's a horrible diplomat and the New Republic fell or didn't work.
Also, if you think about it, New Republic was pretty much a revival of the Old Republic that happened before.
It had a lot of its problems, a lot of the same problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty much the problems the Republic had in the first place. An unstable government that was actually a lot less stable than the Empire was.
The subtle message of Star Wars seems to be that democracy does not work.
Yeah,
it really is.
Because we've seen it fail both sides in both republics.
Yeah, it's all about tyranny, guys. All about tyranny.
Because it actually has worked.
Yeah,
especially the Imperial era. That was most stable.
So we have that. It's very stable, but it was still this like martial law 24/7.
So we have that flashback where Luke is just like, "You're Palpatine." Yes. Me and Leia knew that. So,
that's
it kind of makes sense. Going back to The Last Jedi, where she like immediately pulls with the Force. It's just like the fact that Palpatine's strong with the dark side.
If he knew she was a Palpatine, you think he would want nothing to do with training her. He was hesitant as it was.
Yeah.
He was
unless we're saying that's why he was hesitant.
Well, I can give you that.
Also, there's like his failure of Ben.
His failure, and she's a Palpatine.
His failure. I like to think he was like the master. Like the ideal master that was like needed at the time. He learned from his mistakes and the mistakes of the masters before him, and he was kind of like learning from that. And he learned when he was a Force ghost. I like to think that being a Force ghost, you're more enlightened. So like he was drawing, so I think he was drawing on like the mistakes of the mentors before him and his own mistakes, and in which he was guiding like Rey at the end when he appears. So I like to think that he was kind of like kind of redeeming himself.
Yeah.
In the end.
What about this troll moment in his eye wink?
You mean like in Last Jedi?
No, in this one.
In the
when?
What do you mean?
I mean, like your favorite part.
Oh yeah, how he's just doing all this stuff, and you're just complaining on how Force Ghosts don't do jack shit. You're just complaining about this after the movie. Like. Why don't Force Ghosts do this stuff more often? For all we know, those are the only Force Ghosts in existence.
Okay. So a popular Sinister Jest perspective is the fact that
we're being the most cynical person in the entire group. Like, you're just find something to complain about, just latch onto that and just keep on hammering.
Are you saying that Luke is the most cynical person?
No, I'm saying him.
I was going to say Luke.
It's because Luke in Last Jedi did nothing. All he did was be the ultimate troll and he did something. He
that was big.
Force projected himself to face. Okay, I give you that, but it's just like he could have done more than that. But he stayed on his fucking island. So a famous Sinister Jest perspective here is that Force Ghosts themselves are assholes. The people who have died already could, they come back as Force Ghosts to teach the young and be there as, Gandhi. To be, someone there to promote peace and all that shit. I used to, a popular Sinister Jest, perspective is that these Force Ghosts would be, put into use. These assholes who simply sit by, they're like, okay, my time is done, I'm a Force Ghost, it's your time, generation, it is your time, generation. Yet they come by and help Rey in her dire need. And they're just like, we are the power that helps you.
Well, she had been
training to do that.
She had been researching, training how to do that.
So they don't help on their own will.
And so did Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke.
He's talking about the point where Rey became all the Jedi at the end. We just jumped super far forward anyway.
Okay,
sorry.
That part. I thought you were talking about the Force Ghost part.
But to justify my point is the fact that, later on, as Jesse has so, antagonized me, it's the point that, the Jedi that fall before him, the Force Ghosts, as I like to call them, they have literally formed as one to help Rey overcome Palpatine. Okay, so later at the end, my whole perspective here is that Force Ghosts could be put into use.
You're at 28 minutes on this Sinister.
These assholes could help, but they choose not to. And that is what I find hilarious. Because these people think that they're retired. They shouldn't help, but they help Rey at the end.
Force Ghosts can only do so much thing because now they're part of the Force. It's restricted because they know they're a lot more enlightened than they were in life.
But they help Rey in the end. So I think that was a hilarious point.
That was more of just the Force.
I thought that was
more of as a Force rather than a Force Ghost.
But you said they're one with the Force.
None of the characters we heard had any Force Ghost training whatsoever. I know pretty much all the voices that showed up. None of them had Force Ghost training except for Yoda and Obi-Wan. Everybody else Hell no.
But it's unbeknownst to us, fundamentals of the Force,
but none of those other characters.
So, but given that precedence, like, I have to, like, make fun of the fact that, like, these ghosts, like, Force users, they come in, they're just like, hey, I'm dead. I'm gonna use the Force.
Lego Star Wars had it right all along.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars, like, you can play as Force Ghost.
Lego Star Wars
you can play as
Force
Ghost.
Force Ghost and Lego Star Wars.
Like, so you can literally you can play as a Force Ghost. You can play as a Force Ghost as you play it.
I only have one Lego Star Wars.
Anakin and Obi-Wan.
See, I thought that was hysterical. Because I'm like, these assholes could help. They can change the tide, but they're just like, no, you can wait. Like, it is your destiny, it is your time generation. Yet, they come in full circle to help Rey in the end overcome Palpatine.
And Palpatine had the same thing going on, too. He had the Sith.
See, but if it was the ideology, oh my god, I can't even say it.
He said it himself, too.
Like, if it was the way of the Jedi Force Ghosts, they would have just let Rey do her own thing without help. Considering the fact, that's why I thought it was hysterical. I just like to make fun of that for the fact that Force Ghosts, I think, in my opinion, are assholes. They think that they're retired and thus they have no, like, they don't need to do anything. They have the right to do nothing because their time is done and it's the new generation to do their own thing. I like to make fun of that. Then, like, it's totally contradicted in my opinion, like, when they do, like, Rise of Skywalker and they help Rey be as one and overcome Palpatine together. And I thought that was hysterical for the fact is that, like, oh, you can do your own thing, young Luke, young Rey, you do your own. Well, then again, Luke did, like, kind of pushed her into this direction, so you can't really count Rey. I think that was hysterical, in my opinion.
All right, so I think you're approaching the end of your critique here, buddy. Yeah. You're on like a 30-minute rant here.
Yeah, you're ranting a line.
Well, because you introduced that shit. Okay, so basically,
Final order.
Yeah, so like
the whole thing with them.
I think the movie should have been called Final Order rather than Rise of Skywalker. Much too. We have to give credit to Black Shadow here.
Yeah, Shadow came up with this. He said like it should have been called Final Order, and it probably should have because this is not the Rise of Skywalker. This is actually more the fall of the Skywalkers.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because the Skywalker bloodline has ended.
That is true. Yeah.
With the death of Ben, the Skywalker line has ended.
The fall of the Skywalkers, the fall of the Sith, the fall of the Jedi, the fall of institutional government, as far as we know.
Pretty much, because
these are the things that are falling. Nothing's rising in this.
Nothing rises in this.
There is no form of government currently with the destruction of the New Republic. There are no more Sith. And there are no more Jedi.
Yeah.
See, what I hate to think is that the writer, the director, thought that
so
the rise of Skywalker
is just as bad as
it's everything but a rise. It's the fall of everything.
See, I like
the movie does not end. If you think about it, the movie does not end on a good note.
See,
there's nothing left.
See,
they cancel out. It's all.
I'd hate to think that the rise of Skywalker meant that Ben rose up from being a Sith and rose out of that pit. That was it. That was the rise.
That's how I interpreted it.
See, I was
literally
like,
thought that was the rise of Skywalker.
This is
true.
I was looking at this and I was like, okay, this is awful. I'm like, holy shit, this is bad. I'm like, if the movie was named after this, I'm like, this is an awful name. This is awful in itself. I'm like, holy shit.
Okay.
The whole thing with Palpatine.
I was just saying like. Yeah, Palpatine.
The whole thing with Palpatine.
Okay, so, like, I'll give my take.
From his resurrection all the way until the moment he dies. The whole thing with him. Let's talk about that.
Palpatine is broken. He is the most broken thing about this movie, probably.
OP.
I think, like, okay, so generally as a film, this film functions better than Last Jedi does internally. Internally, the plot is more sound. There's less aesthetic problems. It works within itself. It has a lot of external problems and expository stuff, but Palpatine probably represents one of the biggest internal flaws, and external too, because there's just like bad exposition and how unexplained, bring back to life and all that, but yes, Palpatine is broken in this film.
There's a line for Palpatine where it kind of explains it like, a lot of the abilities of the Force are some things that people would deem unnatural. I think that's how it went.
The dark side. Of the Force is a path to many abilities.
I thought that
was unnatural.
A call back to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, call back to Revenge of the Sith, and also like a lot of stuff you can do with the dark side of the Force.
Yes.
Like pretty much just keeping yourself alive. There's that Force ability where it pretty much just keeps you alive for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Where pretty much you're just living off your Force energy and you're just staying alive.
And I would like to say, as Sinister so eloquently highlighted each minor, painstakingly took us through the plot and highlighted each individual crack and crevice in this film. Despite all that, I acknowledge some of it, not all of it. But despite all of that, the one thing you seem to left out is that I think Palpatine is the biggest problem in this entire film. He is his own resurrection, and from what it's not too busy complaining about the dagger.
No, his own resurrection, because this is actually a resurrection.
Yeah.
This is not just like this. He barely survived the Death Star. No, he actually fucking died.
He did. Yeah.
He's died. Like you see his eyes. Like when you see him, you actually his finger are broken off. You see some business by his rotted. His eyes are completely cataracts.
Yeah.
He's actually dead. It's actually a possessed corpse. And like, it's a full possessed corpse. And you see a bunch of like technology all over the place. You see you see a bunch of technology keeping him alive. And also, you get to see Snoke clones.
You do, yeah.
Like in vats, and like you're like, and you just get like a biggest what the fuck is that kind of shit, and that's not addressed at all.
Well,
you just see that happen in Exogol.
It's just supposed to be their explanation.
So I like to think that. Well, he did say he created Snoke.
He did create Snoke, and you see like 5 Snoke bodies in a vat.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so is Snoke like a clone of himself or something?
But how are we to say that those are Snoke clones rather than Emperor Palpatine clones?
Because they look like Snoke.
They look like Snoke, but also
they also look like a scrotumized like Palpatine.
I think he was already scrutinized.
Say like
I
like to think that like Palpatine was just like this like since he was
like the whole development.
Like when he died, like it opened up like the access for like the dark side to like fully envelop him, and I think he became this all supreme darkness that like was Palpatine.
The whole development of the Final Order.
Yeah, I like that.
Where they came from, and how they actually miniaturized like a Death Star.
Yeah, that hurt. Yeah, just
what happened to the First Order.
Are they manned?
Like
who's piloting those Star Destroyers?
Probably. I'll say more remnants of what was left of the Empire, and also,
but they're just hanging out underground.
Also, whatever fleets he had sent out into the unknown regions.
So, like, that was weird, though. Remember that one scene where there was, like, a whole bunch of people in those, like, that looked like, it was, like, kind of like an amphitheater?
Yeah.
Where, like, everyone was there. I'm like, are those Sith Lords? Or are those, like Force-sensitive Sith
I interpret
users?
them as, like, Sith spirits.
See, I like to think
that was a bit weird.
See, I thought, like, personally for me watching that, I thought that those were, like, Sith users. I'm like, since, like, remember back when, like, the Jedi Order was, like, a whole bunch of Jedis and, like, so many Sith. I felt like that a whole thing turned over, and those were all Sith. And, like, this person was just, like, in order. I'm like...
True.
That's what I thought. I thought that would have made sense. I thought that would have been clever.
That actually does.
But it wasn't explained. I was kind of sad.
It was not explained.
I was just like...
It was not explained.
Then again, he does say minions. So I'm like, are those clones? Or are those, like...
My faithful?
Are they actually like Starkiller clones? From Force Unleashed?
See, I was just like looking at those people... See, I was looking at these people, and I'm like, are these people manning the Star Destroyers in the sky? Or is this just the Force, like, that he's using to put the Star Destroyers in the sky? Or what's happening? None of that was explained.
Also how, like, Palpatine is, like, he does something like Shang Tsung would have done in, like, Mortal Kombat, where he just, like, sucks, like, Force energy out of his body.
I was getting
it's literally exactly what Shang Tsung does in the game. Like, he just slaps you, sucks your soul out. He's literally doing the same thing.
Okay.
He's pulling their Force energy, and guess what? It brings him back to life. I was like, okay, Should that have killed him? Yes.
I would like to point out what I consider like the most glaring problem with Palpatine, and that is he does not work in like as a villain in the plot. And by that I mean, what is this guy's actual plan? We go from telling Kylo Ren to track down and kill Rey to I always wanted you here, Rey, so that you could kill me and I could possess you, to the Force dyad thing. That's the evolution of his plan. It goes from outright wanting her dead to wanting her alive so she could kill him to Force dyad thing. Do you guys like
to force yourself into the dark side?
Not knowing about the dyad thing, that's sloppy. But do you think that he always do you think by telling Kylo to kill Rey that he was secretly hoping that it would bait them into joining up and confronting him that Rey could kill him?
I thought
okay, hold on. Right. Sidious went through pretty much the entirety of the prequels.
Yeah.
As a Sith in the fucking Senate.
Right.
No one noticed.
Yeah.
And everything went off without a hitch.
Mm-hmm.
Basically. Went off without a hitch until he was confronted into Revenge of the Sith. Which actually helped him even more. So I assume he knew that was going to happen.
Okay.
So I assume that
he's also kind of the most paranoid person.
To me, the plot is smoother if that's the case.
So I like to think
him
that
also being the most paranoid person in the galaxy.
Yeah.
I like to think that he's force sensitive to precognition, like Leia
Very
was.
much.
Yeah.
So I like to think that he was able, being manipulative, the manipulative son of a bitch that he was.
So it's just
he was able also to foresee events. But even himself, some things are clouded. And so he didn't see the dyad. But he was manipulating things back in the prequels, as he was right then and there.
Kylo appeared before him, someone's walked into the temple the first time in however long. And so you guys think that he was able to, he couldn't say, bring Rey here, I want her to kill me so she could become Empress and you can get broomed to the curb. He couldn't say that.
No,
so
he needed.
So instead, he said, "Oh, Kylo, you will have my final order if you but track down the scavenger girl and kill her."
I think that you sensed the confliction between in Kylo Ren already, yeah. And then he kind of used that to him.
Well, he was in his head the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel that was just an element
that was
into play, and I feel that Emperor Palpatine was just being manipulative as always. And he already sensed that, and with that precognition, he already knew the events that would follow, and he kind of just played on that with Kylo Ren.
So then how do you explain that? Okay, I've tried to justify this in my mind, and I have a hard time doing it. Mm-hmm. But how would you reconcile with the scene after Ben turns, where they cut to Palpatine and Allegiant General Pride? Where he says, the Princess of Alderaan has foiled my plan. We must take whatever measure. Is the plan foiled because Rey ran off and hid on Michael Sculloch Island? Or is it failed because Ben turned to the light?
I think it was
I think it was Ben turned to the light because that's their threats.
See, I think that the fact that even though you're all powerful to the Force,
because Ben knows where he is.
I think it's
I think that was more of a threat.
I think it's albeit that you're all powerful to the Force and you have precognition abilities, even some things are unbeknownst to the Sith in their all power, and so it's just their dyad, in itself was kind of a barrier that kind of was led Emperor Palpatine to not even know that element, that one percentage, that one little unbeknownst thing that he didn't know, that he couldn't see himself. And I think that even though you're all powerful with the Force, that there's some element that's unbeknownst to you.
See, I was cool with that. It was just
I think that's one of the things drawback in the Force. Even though you're powerful, there's some element of surprise.
I was cool with that. Just the execution of it didn't look good. The whole just sucking their life force with his hands. It looked stupid.
It looked more like he was just straight killing them.
See, as Black Shadow says,
that does look like a kill move rather than anything else.
Yeah. As Black Shadow says, like, that is
somehow
when...
get up and you're still, like, completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the point when Emperor Palpatine should have, like, unsheathed his own lightsaber.
Yeah,
and came in the fight.
Double-handed lightsabers.
This should have been a 2v1 situation.
Like, as Black Shadow...
decimate them.
As Black Shadow said, like, previously in Confidence, he should have... I like the fact when I say in Confidence. He should have been, like, lightning, like, strike you once, like, shame on me. Shame on you, and then shame on me twice when he, like, fucking hits
third time in a row, he lightens himself.
He does! He kills himself with the lightning again! You just think that was his biggest flaw. See, I think that...
compare his line to Snoke's. Yeah. Like, you see with, like, Palpatine, it's, like, slow, and then with, like, Snoke's, it's, like, boom! Like, bam, you're already hit.
Well, then again, you would, like, think that, like, it's more powerful with Palpatine, because he's all the embodied Sith in one. So I think
we did see that. We did see that.
You see him when he was just like, Black Shadow's gone. Help!
Okay,
Black Shadow's been kidnapped. He's gone.
I think we're cutting. Shut up! We're cutting.
So okay, cut back in.
No, we have been ragging on this movie, like, as long as we've started.
I believe that's because it's the freshest in our mind.
It's freshest in your mind.
It's the most recent one.
Okay, now
the recency.
That being said,
because this movie doesn't have the other 2 movies that it didn't have time to age.
I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker much more than Sinister did here, and I do have a lot of good things to say about it. And you probably do too as well.
Yeah.
But before we just kick Sinister out pretty much and start talking about positives.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up I do want to talk about 2 more things that are in the negative light, sort of. Okay, so how do you guys feel about the execution of Ben's death? And just that final sequence.
That whole final scene was after they already killed Palpatine and like we see Rey dead and Okay, we gotta talk about that fucking kiss. That's the first thing we gotta talk about.
I think that's what I was really asking.
That's the first thing we gotta talk about. For anything after that, that's the first thing we gotta talk about.
Kylo Rey won.
Yeah.
That camp won.
Yeah. Okay. That I'm just gonna chalk that up to being in the freaking moment. You just got brought back to life. If that does not get you horny, I don't know what will.
Probably not.
Because like you just got brought back to life. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to kiss the first person you see.
Right. Oh, that's.
It's like I don't know if I want to kill you or I want to kiss you.
You want to kiss the first person you see when you live?
Okay, it's like the person that brought you back to life.
Personally, I would just be like, "Hey, I'm alive. Let's be happy. Let's hug." I wouldn't kiss the first person I fucking see.
You still need to be prosecuted for war crimes, but it's okay.
It's okay. I called you a monster in the first 2 movies. Hey, I love you now. Let's fuck. I
think if that would happen, that'll be like a one night stand kind of thing.
I can see that.
Yeah, in Palpatine's lair. I don't know.
Hey, everyone's dead. So
I don't know. There's a pretty convenient throne right there.
I guess.
We got furniture.
Oh God! Oh my God!
It's not comfortable furniture, but it's furniture.
Oh Jesus! Stone! Holy fuck!
There's a back to take.
Little did you know, there's a bedroom in the behind, like the throne and everything. Like, oh jeez.
I'm just gonna chalk that part up to being in the moment. It's weird, but it's not really that big of a problem.
Hold on. I'm gonna go first. I was 100% okay with it. I thought there was enough build up. There was enough build up throughout the 3 films that I thought it was warranted. There is the having just been brought back to life thing,
and also there's a sexual tension between the 2 of them for the last 3 movies.
Right. No. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like I thought there was a sufficient degree of build up. That it was warranted. I thought it was warranted.
Absolutely. I don't have problems with it.
In fact, when I saw it for the first time in the theater, that was probably one of the biggest cheers I heard in the auditorium. I remember distinctly there was one person in front of me that like jumped on their feet and they like yelled at the heavens, "It's canon now!"
And then Ben immediately dies afterwards.
So like for me, like I was like, you could have done without the kiss. Like I think that it was strange that you see her kind of like neglect him in the first 2 movies, and all of a sudden
there's
this like kiss, like this whole unless there's like some secret like sensual sexual tension you see.
They're could have for all we knew.
Like unless coming back to life gives you that like sexual
a lot of people read Last Jedi that way.
So I think that person that stood up, Jay,
like, I see that. I totally see that.
Especially like after she does the infinity mirror thing, and then she's confiding in him about feeling so alone. And the whole palm touch thing. And
so I can see
Luke,
that.
the parent, kicks open the door. It's like, kids, leave the door open.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just strange though.
Even just like the first time Kylo Ren took off his mask.
Then again,
like there's a 5 minute or like 10-second period.
That was creepy though. That wasn't like
that was creepy, but it was
creepy as fuck.
It was effective too.
Did she see him with his shirt off?
Well, yeah.
He like comes in. He's like, "I'm ripped. Sup, girl?
Can you put a shirt on?
What you doing?"
Towel.
He's like, "You shouldn't do that. How are you? Do you like my hair?"
He tells them to put a shirt on too. So yeah, they're definitely gonna be some like sexual tension.
So I mean, I can see that justified by like the events of Last Jedi, where she's like, "You tried to kill him, Luke. Why?" and whatnot. She's sympathizing.
Also, that elevator scene, like you pointed out when we watched Last Jedi.
Which was what?
After she showed up on Snoke's ship, and they were in the elevator going down, and Rey was like almost walking circles around her. She's like, "I saw your future, Ben. You'll turn." It's right before they walk into the throne room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I can kind of see that. I thought they were like.
Yeah.
Then like their kiss was kind of like I thought that was a little extreme. The fact that she was still calling him a monster though. Then I thought that was kind of like a weird like shift. I thought that would have been like used more like a hug than a kiss. Like I would think so. Like, cause she's just like, "I want her to take your hand, but I don't want to take Ben's." So there was like really no hint of like a romantic appeal at that end, but there's kind of like a friendship or like a bond, a bond. No, like a bond. Well, the dyad is essentially a bond. Yeah. So it's like a strong bond between the two, and I thought it was like more friendship based. I was like kind of weirded out to see a kiss. And I was like, okay, you call him a monster, then all of a sudden you're sympathetic, then like you want to kiss him.
I thought she was always sympathetic.
See,
I feel that I think
because she was trying to convert him through most of Last Jedi, especially after she learned about it, and then even at the beginning of this movie, a little bit, kind of.
So
he was more the aggressor, like trying to convert her.
Yeah,
but she went the whole like, "I see through the cracks in your mask, you're haunted." Like, I'm going to take Ben's hand.
Yeah, I thought that was extreme. I thought that was just like maybe a hug would have sufficed, or like a friendship rather than like a romantic thing before he dies all of a sudden after their kiss. I'm like, was that the kiss of death? He just fucking flopped over afterwards. I'm like, I think I'm acting death. I'm like, that's funny.
All the weird Force stuff that happens. All of the weird stuff with Force has been weird for these last 3 movies.
By the way I interpreted like the end sequence was as all the Jedi, Rey cancels out Palpatine as all the Sith, so they kill each other. It made a lot of sense that she died, and Ben had to transfer all of his Force energy or life force into Rey to bring her back to life, which I think is actually the secret to immortality that Palpatine was always after. It was self-sacrifice, like the ability to extend someone's life, or in Plagueis' case, like his dialogue about Plagueis.
So I like to think though that like as she
the secret that Anakin was after, the way to cheat death is self-sacrifice, like to sacrifice yourself to save someone else. That's the way I read it. So he sacrificed his own life, all his Force energy, to bring her back to life. and they were alive at the same time for plot conveniences before he kicked it.
So I like to think that when she healed him, she gave him some of that Force energy that he later returned. And that's what healed her.
I think she said...
she was dead. It's more than like...
No, I think there's one point in the movie where she says, it's like, I'm giving like part of my life force.
Yeah, with the serpent thing, yeah.
Yeah, that.
See, I like explaining it to BB, which was good dialogue. Like,
yeah.
It helped
I like to think that like Ben revived her with her own self. Because the part that she gave him...
He gave that back, but he also gave everything he had.
See, I like to think
it wasn't just that.
He was... Like, the culmination of
he would
both
still be
is
alive.
what gave her back her life.
Unless you're saying
his own. Even his own.
Well, yeah, the culmination, I believe, is what gave her back her life. I think it's because she gave, like, part of herself to him, that he gave back that part and himself entirely back to her.
I actually think the revive scene was superiorly executed. It was compared with the stuff that happened before with Palpatine. I thought it was more better, or it was better executed on screen than like sucking Force energy and then all the dialogue between them. Or Ben the lightsaber transfer, that was cool. But other than that, the throne room was really a mess. I like Ben's lightsaber, and I like the revive.
The item teleportation, like they're seeing stuff around stuff, and stuff is like moving from place to place. Like item teleportation, like those berries being teleported into the Star Destroyer, the helmet falling onto the planet, the disappearing lightsaber that Kylo Ren gets, that Ben gets, like with the Knights of Ren,
which was set up in Last Jedi. I would like to point out
what.
Were you talking about like Force Amazon Prime with the items with the dice?
I think those were the same.
That was weird.
It's weird that they disappeared afterwards.
Yeah,
but
that was weird.
Still an object that was transferred.
I think those were the same thing as Luke was.
But how could she like hold them if it was like that?
Good point. I don't know.
That was weird. Yeah.
Even didn't like Yoda? Didn't he interact with the physical world in some way when he was
the lightning bolt?
Yeah, the lightning bolt. But I thought he like slapped Luke on the shoulder or something.
He hit him with the stick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he whacked him with his cane.
So with a Force stick.
So it is somewhat. Yeah, it's somewhat established there. It's messy. Like it's yeah.
Yeah. Also, the Knights of Ren.
How he's killed?
How they just get bitched in their first movie. They did.
We are the Knights of Ren. We are the best trackers ever.
But we're the worst fighters ever. If we can find your person, but they will kill us.
Yeah, I just read the first 2 issues of the Kylo Ren comic that came out, and not as well as you would think. Actually, the Knights of Ren, the disaster of the Knights of Ren gets furthered because there's a scene in it where Luke single-handedly wrecks them.
Is that canon though?
Yeah, it's canon. It's canon comic.
So yeah, their Knights of Ren are pretty much
they're not nearly as cool as we made them out to be in Force Awakens.
So are they Force sensitive or no?
Yeah, they are Force sensitive.
We don't see that though. That kind of makes you sad a little bit.
It hurts
because they get wrecked. In that last scene.
They were winning until
that lightsaber point is like shrug.
By the way, that shrug is incredible.
It's just like
I thought that was great. He
was just like
that was hysterical.
He's like lightsaber. Yeah.
It was just like I just looked at where he was just saying like, well, it's not red, but beggars can't be choosers.
Well, Han also does the same thing like in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
People are like, all right. And I'm like,
well,
let's do this.
I thought
he just kills all of them.
Yeah, I thought it was hysterical.
It was funny.
It was a great moment.
It was also kind of like a waste of the Knights of Ren because that's like the one scene you see them actually doing anything.
And they just get destroyed. And they were winning until he got the lightsaber.
Yeah, but
you need a weapon.
You need a weapon.
He didn't have a weapon.
You only had a blaster.
Yeah, I had a blaster.
They're using probably Ketspar weapons or some other lightsaber resistant weapons.
We are the Knights of Ren. We track people.
We
Get
die.
wrecked.
We die. We follow people and then we die.
We follow people and then those same people kill us.
Yep.
Pretty much. That's exactly what happened.
One other controversial thing I want to bring up, and then we should probably start talking or give some positives about this before we sign off, because there are a lot of good things about it. We think final scene, the epilogue. The name is Bond, James Bond. The name Skywalker.
I mean, the shit I came up with. Oh,
the name Skywalker, Rey Skywalker.
No.
How do we feel about this?
That hurt
me.
That hurt me.
This could have gone like 1 or 3 Rays. I said Ray.
1 or 3 Rays.
1 to 3 Rays.
1 or 3 Rays.
I mean, 1 to 3 ways. You said.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I meant, but also that could have also works.
Yeah.
She could have been
1 to 3 Rays.
She could have done exactly what she did in the movie. Said Rey Skywalker.
Yep.
She could have also said Rey Palpatine.
Yep.
Because that's what she is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And also just kind of help normalize it, because
right.
at this point it doesn't really matter. Or she could have gone just Rey.
That's 4.
Because she also says that like part with the movie back on the
planet. Yeah. At the celebration.
The celebration. She says just Rey.
See, I would have loved.
I would have preferred either just
Palpatine.
Rey or Palpatine.
Yeah, Rey Palpatine was so strong.
I was taking either Rey Palpatine
Either one of
or
those,
just Rey.
Either one of those would have been superior.
Well,
to Rey
see, the
Skywalker.
thing is the fact that like naming herself as Rey Palpatine would have kind of given light to her lineage, and I feel like you can't really do that because she kind of went against Palpatine and himself. So I think that she should have just said Rey.
Well, that would have been the message. The message would have been like, you can rewrite the meaning of your heritage. Like, Palpatine, like the name Palpatine inspired fear for the longest time, but now it has been repurposed for the white. Like that would have been your message. Your message is that like nothing is set in stone. Perceptions can change with time. That would have been what you're going with.
I can see that.
Just Rey, you're going with pretty much just, it's a normalizing effect. Like it just severs her from both the Sith and the Jedi, which I thought would have been brilliant. That one probably would have made the most sense, I think, as a film, because we're done with the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah.
We're done.
So,
Rey was all the Jedi. Palpatine was all the Sith. They killed each other. Ben sacrificed himself to bring Rey back to life, but she's not a Jedi. She's something better.
She's something like I like to think that like the Jedi kind of like the Jedi times are done.
It's
like it's done. That I was kind of like the underlying theme that the time of the Jedi are like it's over. It's up with. And so like it would have made more sense if Black Shadow kind of like underlined that the fact that it's over and that just Rey, like being Rey, just that's it. That would have been like that would have been perfect end. But Rey Skywalker, I'm like, you're not a Rey Skywalker. Who are you? I'm like, you didn't get adopted. Like, no one adopted you. What the fuck?
Like how I said.
Like, how dare you say that?
Sinister. Stop.
Okay, really quick aside. I've seen the movie 6 times, and one of the times I saw it, I forget who it was. I've seen so many times. I don't remember a lot of audience, but whoever I was with, they said that they interpreted it they thought that the final scene was suggesting an incestuous relationship between Luke and Rey, because it cut between their Force ghosts, and they are nodding and smiling, standing next to each other, and then Rey's like, Rey Skywalker. That was the way they read it.
What? Wait. An incestuous relationship between whom?
Between Luke and Leia.
Oh,
because they're standing next. No. I don't read it that way.
Okay.
That was terrible. It's sending a horrible message. That's what I'm saying.
The closest that I ever got was
Empire.
It was Empire.
Rey Skywalker is broken. Just as Rian Johnson was marooned on Skeleton Michael Island and Mickey Mouse directed the rest of the movie, this is one scene where Disney just stepped right in, I think, and gave like an executive order. This is what she has to say.
So Rey Skywalker.
We need to cap this thing off. We need to sell our Skywalker saga box set. We need this to be the closing thing.
Like,
which I pre-ordered.
It would have been so much satisfying if she would have just been like Rey.
I don't
have a last name.
I did not buy Last Jedi. I don't have Force Awakens.
I think that like denying her birthright, like being like a Sith, like I think just saying Rey by itself,
just Rey,
like I think that would have been more satisfying because she's denying her lineage, like she did, and defying Palpatine, and so it's like either that or Rey Palpatine, like because like saying like Rey Palpatine, like being in the light, like I'm the light side, but then again it's like it's kind of giving credit to like being in the light, considering the fact that they're done. There's no Jedi, there's no Sith. She's just Rey now. So she's denying both the Sith and the Jedi.
It's botched.
Like
it's a botched. It's a
now.
botched conclusion.
I think it's
actually just the dialogue. The scene itself is fine.
Yeah.
The line is broken, I think.
Is that weird that chick looked like the husband of Owen, like from
what, that old lady?
Yeah, from New Hope.
I thought it looks like Storm's coming in, Annie.
Like
oh yeah.
I thought
like completely off subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like,
it was kind of
she looked familiar.
So, despite all of that,
which was almost entirely all negative.
It was almost entirely all negative. Yeah. We actually like this movie fairly well. I put it, or I have it as the second best. I think it functions better internally as a film than Last Jedi does. It does not have the same editing flaws or poor character writing, or not as bad character writing or character development as Last Jedi does, namely the Tico Dilemma. But aside from Palpatine being broken as a villain, aside from the Nomenclature Dilemma at the end, and also just the plot convenience of that many ships being able to hyperspace to Exogol in an instant, despite all that.
I don't even think we addressed that. We didn't address that.
We didn't address that.
We did a little bit.
We barely, but we didn't address it in detail.
We did.
Like how, like...
Okay, we're done knocking on this movie.
Okay. Black Shadow doesn't want to address that.
They are weeks away from Exogol.
They are weeks away. It takes weeks of travel by hyperspace to do that.
Even with the Falcon.
But despite all that, I think this movie actually does do several things well. Namely, it's the first chance that the new Big Three have a chance to star together in an extended scene.
And who are the Big Three?
The new Big Three are Rey, Finn, and Poe.
Okay.
And they, all of their scenes leading up to the discovery of the Wayfinder on Endor, a lot of those, the plot conveniences hurt, but the acting is really good. And there's good development between those characters, and I think it was important that this movie gave us a chance to see all those characters like functioning in the same plot line, in the same scenes, because we hadn't seen that before. In fact, Poe did not even meet Rey
until Last Jedi.
Until the end of Last Jedi.
Yeah, pretty much.
Until the end of Last Jedi, yeah. So it does that well. I am a big fan of a lot of the world building that happened on Kijimi. I like seeing the First Order being represented as like a Gestapo force that's going door to door, forcing recruitment. That's the kind of stuff I would have liked to see from the Empire in the original trilogy, but we never did.
Yeah.
So that's solid world building.
What happens in the First Order?
What happened to them? Like
because they just disappear.
They had their one command ship. It seems like they had their one command ship at Exogol that was.
I think those were all Final Order ships.
No, there was one. There was one first, like the main one, the command ship.
So what about the Red Stormtroopers? Though? The Red Stormtroopers. You remember seeing those?
Yeah, those are Final Order.
I like to think that old Empire enthusiasts stay behind and into Skull or Adam's Skull or the clan's Skull. I like to think that some of them stayed there, and there was some cloning involved, and that made up part of the forces that were the Red Stormtroopers that we saw.
They could have been clones.
Yeah, I like to think that they went back to that because we do see some weird people in tubes and shit. So I thought that was I thought
That reminds me. Another positive I'd like to point out. I do not know the actor's name, but Allegiant General Pride, the new number 2 villain, that pretty much takes General Hux's role.
Oh, the guy that blasts Hux?
Yeah, he had an excellent performance, I thought. I wish we had this guy in Last Jedi, because it felt like it desperately needed someone like that, especially since they were going to sideline Hux in the way they did.
And get rid of Hux the way they did.
That made me sad, actually. Like, how, Hux had a strong role in, Force Awakens, and they just, kind of threw him away.
He was big in Force Awakens, and then in Last Jedi he gets sidelined a little bit more.
Yep.
And then Rise of Skywalker, he gets a little bit, gets shot in the leg, and then he just gets executed.
I mean,
everyone looks like, and there's a crazy thing from that shot he got hit that knocked him back a good 15 feet.
Yeah,
that looked like a full power blast.
It did.
Yeah, I mean,
because blasters don't really have that much knockback.
So it's it kind of made me sad a little bit seeing that.
It did too. Hux was one of my favorite characters.
I think Hux, I get it. He failed in Force Awakens, and he was the whole series was kind of centered around his failure and how he was slowly being brought down and demoted until he was eventually killed off. But I felt it could have been
probably has one of the saddest character arcs
in the trilogy. Does.
Yeah. If you think about it.
I feel like it could have been developed better, and that's again addressing.
Okay, we're in the positive section now, though.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
okay, we gotta go. We gotta start taking positive because we're just keeping them back to negative.
I'm rifling through them in my head to get through.
I think we're actually being critical. Our placements.
With how we rank them. Would you like to bring up any more specific positives?
Specific positives.
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie once, so I really don't remember. I don't really remember a lot. I remember there are bits. Rey's training. I'll put that as a positive.
Okay.
I'll put actually see Rey training in the Force as an actual positive.
Okay.
Because that also helped. Okay, Rey has actually been training. This will just help us swallow Rey's powers more easily.
Yeah.
Because we actually see some actual training.
Yeah. Other thing I want to point out, I think that I thought this was one of Oscar Isaac's best films, actually. You say you liked it better in Force Awakens, but I really like this arc they had with him. Because he's a completely different person now than he was in Force Awakens. He might actually be the most... Poe, yeah. He might actually be the most dynamic character, I think. Besides Kylo Ren, because he's all over the place.
Yeah, Kylo Ren's all over the place, but I think Poe is one of the characters that has actually grown the most.
He really has. He's just this. He's enthusiastic and friendly and energetic in Force Awakens, and then he grows more cynical in Last Jedi. And
I think for more cynical, he just gets more trigger happy.
Yeah. And he's ultimately forced to embrace more of a leadership role. And then they continue that in Rise of Skywalker.
Sure.
They continue that, and he's just... At times, he's outright cynical. Especially in a lot of his banter, dialogues with Rey and Finn. I really love...
Even him and Rey going back and forth, what did you do to the Falcon? What did you do to my droid? What did you do to the Falcon? What did you do to my droid?
I really like that scene, actually.
That was pretty funny. The guy was yeah, the guy was double clutching the freaking Falcon.
Yeah.
Because no, you're screwing the clutch up.
He's what are you doing? Oh, you're training. Well, we need you out there. You're the best fighter we have. What are you training for?
Unfortunately,
you were light skipping the Falcon. You dropped a tree on my droid.
Yeah. So you really should have been out there with us.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, my perspective has been clouded by an article that came out about.
I don't know.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac wanted.
I'll be honest. I don't know who was angrier. Rey at Poe light skipping the Falcon, or Chewbacca being angry at Poe for light skipping the Falcon. I don't know who should be angrier.
Probably Chewie.
Probably Chewie.
So, my perspective has been doused by a recent article that came out between Oscar Isaac and Disney.
I still thought that was a good thing.
So, my perspective has been clouded by Oscar Isaac and an article about Oscar Isaac and Disney and how he wanted the ending, but to have a romantic conclusion
that
between
was Force Awakens.
Poe and no, that was actually Rise of Skywalker.
Was it?
It was. There was an article about Oscar Isaac and his how he wanted Poe and Finn to like have like their romantic thing happened, like a thing, like an actual thing happened in Rise of Skywalker. Would have like an LGBTQT. I don't even fucking know. Sorry.
That was an extras thing. That was
that's the thing that he wanted.
They did have a couple.
Like there was an article that came out recently, and that's why like my perspective.
It takes nothing away from his performance.
It takes nothing.
I know, but I'm just saying that my perspective around that Oscar Isaac's character.
Actors are actors. Part of my perspective was warped when I heard that Daisy Ridley had never seen like any of the Star Wars films before doing Force Awakens. But
wait, really?
Yeah, really. Yeah. But she still delivers like probably one of the best performances in the trilogy.
Yeah.
That kind of draws back from like my perspective that I think that Oscar Isaac had his best performance in Force Awakens, and how it like kind of dwindled in like the Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion. And it's kind of like the article that I read kind of like draws from that as well.
Okay, what are the positives?
The
world building they had on that one planet.
Kijimi. Yeah, that was something I brought up. Yeah.
I think
that was a good. That was some that was good world building. Like seeing like what the First Order was doing.
That was some of the best.
Some of the backstory stuff they had.
That was some of the best world building I think.
Fucking Babu Freak, man. Shit was great. Shit was great.
The conversation Poe had with what's her face?
Zori.
Yeah, Zori.
When they went on the roof. Oh, dude, when I saw it initially, I was like, oh, thank God, we're gonna like actually have a moment to stare out and just like look and see what's happening.
And like the conversations they have, like them going back and forth, like him like what he did as like a spice runner and stuff. Like all him leaving, like I got on her nerves.
No. Yeah.
And I think the funniest part of the whole thing was Poe and what was his name? I keep forgetting it.
Zori.
Like his and Zori's relationship is probably the funniest thing in the entire movie.
Yeah, where he's like, please, can I kiss him?
Yeah, that guy kiss you was literally the funniest thing that I actually laughed when he said that. He was like, can I kiss you? She was like, no. And then like,
which said go.
And like at the end, like when they're celebrating, and like he sees her,
gives that like shrug and
he was like, hey, you like he kind of like signaled like you want to do something, hang out or something, like you want celebrate or something, like you want to do something, and she was just like, no.
You want to drink?
And just like walks off.
Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious.
That was great. It was
like, hey, you want to do something? Like, nope. Yeah. I helped you this. Fuck off.
I think I have to concur with that.
Humor was generally good.
Yeah. With Babu Freak.
The humor in this film was of a much higher quality than Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, Last Jedi did have some moments that worked.
Then again, Last Jedi had Yoda. And I felt like that comic relief of him destroying that tree.
Again, that's just like one moment, though. It's contained. It's one scene. Like, I think Last Jedi hits on good humor notes throughout.
The Last Jedi has there's some things that get good Rise of Skywalker. There's some, not Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi. There are some moments where the comedy actually works. Like with Poe like prank calling Hux. That was actually straight funny. And I actually watched that last night and I was laughing my ass off that entire moment.
I believe
I was laughing my ass off when I watched that scene again. He's just prank calling him.
Yeah.
And then also like with like Luke saying like nobody's from nowhere, and then Rey says Jakku, like okay, that's from nowhere. It's like yeah, like okay, like nobody's from nowhere, like I'm from Jakku, like okay, yeah, you're pretty much from nowhere.
Which is funny because Jakku is in the Inner Rim.
Wait, is it?
It is in the Inner Rim.
It's in the Inner Rim.
It's in the Inner Rim. Yeah, I learned that the other day.
I actually thought that Jakku was actually like in the Outer Rim.
You would assume because it's like a nowhere destination. Yeah, but yeah, it turns out it's actually in the Inner Rim. That's why the Empire made their last stand there, because it's a strategic location in the Inner Rim leading to the Core Worlds. Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought it was like in the Outer Rim, like Geonosis and Tatooine.
It popped up in the book I was reading.
Really, I didn't know that. I thought it was actually in the Outer Rim.
To kind of go around like
I mean the joke is still funny.
It's still fun. It's still funny.
It's still funny because like okay, you're from a shithole planet.
It's the backwater of the Inner Rim. Yeah.
Yeah, you're okay. It's like if people was like now you put that in context like okay, you're from a shithole planet.
To kind of go in like a different direction.
It's still funny, but yeah, there's some moments where the comedy actually gets, and it's funny.
All right, to go in a different direction, I'd like to say that.
Are you saying something positive?
When
we're on the positive side.
I am.
Right.
Okay, so I'd like to say that like Emperor Palpatine coming back, I thought that was great. Having like a general bad guy, a villain, to be directed on, I thought that was so good. I'm like, Palpatine's back. That made me so happy.
Bring in Robot Chicken Palpatine.
Dude, I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy. And the fact that he's just like, I am not one, I am all the Sith. And I was like, oh yes!
I was
like, oh, that's so great.
How about the moment when he was like, do not fear their fable attack, my faithful. And he's like, nothing will like the lightning in
the lightning in the sky.
He yells in his Palpatine voice like, nothing will stop the return of the Sith. Like, I thought that was like his unlimited power moment.
That was
yeah.
That's
I was like, this is amazing.